Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Had Secret No.1 Villain Quirk with One for All movie. Before we start, please go support Luis on 2234V for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Deku is a male. The new student. It was the last day of camp and teachers that had decided to do a test of courage among the classes. This was so they would get along better. The class in charge of scaring first would be Class B, and those from Class A would have to make teams. Lita, Midoriya, let's be a team, he said, moving him by the shoulders. Izuku, no, I'm going alone, he said, taking out a juice box and starting to drink it. This made everyone's sweat drop because they knew their green-haired friend's attitude. But they always found it funny how blunt and mocking he was. The teams were chosen, but one was left over. That was the green-haired one, but he preferred to be alone. When the teams were finished being chosen, they already had to go through the green-haired one. As he was the first, entered the forest to get scared. Juzo, Kodai, you just stand there while Kendo and I hide, he said, smiling. Yui, and why me? She said stoically as always. Kendo, you look like a ghost, he said, laughing a little. At that moment Yui just nodded and stood there. Several students had been scared by Yui and ran away terrified just by seeing her, thinking she was a ghost. Juzo, very well Kodai, this step will scare everyone, he said with a smile. Yui, thank you, she said stoically. Kendo, oh, there comes another one, get ready, he said, hiding like Kendo. Yui remained still and stoic. She saw how someone approached, and it was no one more or no one less than our green-haired boy. Izuku, huh? He said, confused when he saw Yui. Yui, boo, she said, this trying to scare him. The green-haired boy just reached into his sweatshirt pocket and pulled out a juice box. Izuku, are you a ghost? He said, carefree, looking at Yui. Yui, yes, she said, she is trying to scare the green-haired boy. Izuku, oh okay, what do you want from me? He said, taking a sip from his box. Kendo/Juzo, why isn't he scared? They thought, impressed. Yui, kill you, she said seriously. Izuku, oh ha 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 ha. The green-haired boy started to laugh while holding his stomach because he hurt from laughing so much. Yui, what's so funny? She said, confused and a little upset for not being able to scare the green-haired boy. Izuku, a lot of people have told me that, and no one has succeeded so far, he said, surprising the three, but well, if you're a ghost, I can't kill you and you can kill me, he said, scaring the three with the phrase, I can't kill you. Yui, have you already killed someone? She said, somewhat scared. Izuku, no, he said, sitting on a rock. So what do you want me to do? He said, taking from his juice box. Kendo, he thinks he's a ghost, and he's not scared. Penso is surprised. Yui, why aren't you afraid of me? She said, confused. Izuku, believe me, for someone who has seen the worst in the world, a ghost is a walk in the park, he said while looking at Yui. At the moment of saying that, the three boys became confused. Yui, the worst thing in the world? She said, confused. Izuku, you know you are very inquisitive to be a ghost, although very pretty, I must say, he said, blushing at Yui. Yui, thank you, she said with a blush. Izuku, so do you want me to kill someone for you or get revenge for you? He said, taking out a second box of juice. Yui, no, just be scared, she said, approaching the green-haired boy. Izuku, oh okay, he said, this one to start shaking. Please don't see, come see closer to me, he said, this one pretending to be scared. At that moment the three boys were surprised by how well the green-haired boy was pretending. Yui, okay, how do you pretend so well? She said, surprised. Izuku, I'll tell you a secret, he said while looking at Yui. Well, I don't know if you heard that Class A and B were attacked by villains in the USJ facilities, he said while Yui acknowledged. Well, who do you think informed the villains, he said with a grim smile. At that moment the three boys were in shock. The thing about a traitor in the UA had already been mentioned, but they never expected it to be that somewhat playful boy from Class 1A who always helps whoever he can. Yui, are really? She said with some fear. Izuku, no, he said while taking another box of juice, I don't even know how they managed to attack us. I just know that UA security is shit, he said, laughing. At that moment the three boys calmed down. It was just another joke from the green-haired boy. Izuku, You know I like talking to you, you're like the first friend I had. Too bad you're a ghost and dead, he said, looking at the ground. At that moment Yui, Kendo and Juzo felt a little bad for the green-haired boy. Yui, I am your friend, I affirmed this. Izuku, wow ha, I managed to get Yui Kodai to give me her friendship, he said, laughing a little. At that moment the three boys were surprised. Yui, you already knew? She said, confused. Izuku, from the beginning, he said, laughing, just as I know that Kendo and Juzo are in the bushes and Setsuna tries to scare me by putting a floating hand on my shoulder while Shiozaki tries to grab my feet with his vines, he said, jumping to avoid them. Ibara, how did you know? She said, impressed. Izuku, perception? He said, shrugging his shoulders. Well, it was a pleasure playing with you. I'll say that you scared me and I ran away from the forest. Why, yes? This shy guy said and then laughed. Setsuna, thank you? Izuku, just Izuku. He said this to grab another box of juice and leave, but he stopped, confusing everyone. Thanks for being my first friend, I'll look for you later. He said this to leave. Yui, what's wrong with that boy? She said, surprised. Doesn't he get scared by anything? She said, watching the green-haired boy leave. Upon seeing the green-haired boy, he also turned his head to look at her and just winked at her, making her blush. Yui, whatever, she said, blushing, looking away. Kendo, he is very brave, she said, surprised. Juzo, if Kodai didn't scare you, I don't know what he will, he said, laughing a little. Setsuna, he's also very handsome, she said, blushing a little. Ibara, Setsuna, don't start with your things, although I admit that it is something cute, she said, also watching how the green-haired boy left. After that the activity ended and everyone went back to their rooms to wait for the next day to leave very early since they had classes the next day arrived, and we could see how all the buses entered the UA. The kids got off already with their uniforms on and everyone went to their respective classroom. Room 1B. Vlad, okay brats, we'll have an exchange student from the other class staying with us from now on. His stuff is being moved to the dorms. Kendo, and who is the new Professor Vlad? She said, confused. Vlad, let him introduce himself, he said to open the door. The moment Yui entered she just blushed a little, as did Setsuna and Ibara. Kendo and Juzo just smiled a little, remembering that boy. Izuku, hi, I'm Izuku, just Izuku, he said with a smile. A visit to the past. I am Izuku Midoriya, and ever since I can remember my life has been complete shit. I have never been loved by anyone, although I have never needed it, but why don't we start from the beginning? A 4-year-old Izuku is seen with his mother next to the doctor. Doctor, madam, how to tell you this, he said seriously. Inko, it doesn't matter if he doesn't have a quirk, I'll support him in this, she said with a smile. Doctor, no, your son does have a quirk, he said seriously. Inko, so what's the problem? She said, confused. At this point Izuku was excited. He could be a great hero like All Might. Doctor, that your son has the quirk of the previous villain No.1, he said seriously. At that moment both Izuku and Inko were in shock. Inko, thank you doctor, she said with a cold look. After that Izuku and Inko leave the doctor's office. Doctor, sorry kid, but I have to make you a villain for all for one, he said seriously. Now we can see Izuku and Inko walking straight to their house until they arrived. Izuku, it doesn't matter what my quirk is, I will be a blow reaches him. Inko, shut up you damn villain, said this cold one. Izuku, mama? He said with fear. Inko, no, tell me mother villain, she said, attracting a knife with her telekinesis, cutting off a finger of the green-haired boy, but the two saw with surprise how he regenerated immediately. Izuku, out of fear, could do nothing but run away from his home. From that moment on I just ran and ran, I never looked back. Just for once, I could see my mother's gaze, that gaze full of coldness and hatred directed at me. From that point on I knew what I had to know from the beginning: you can't trust anyone. Time skip 4 years. Izuku, right now I'm 8 years old and things are still the same. I've become a thief, in order to eat, although from time to time I use my quirk in case they are about to catch me. It turns out that my power gives me cellular regeneration, to the point of not being able to die from damage or illness. And it also allows me to nullify the quirks in my area, and I can use my quirk on my body, filling myself with a black mass that I call the black form. From that moment I knew that I was not normal, I was destined to be something more, but I couldn't do it with my power if my mother did not support me and called me a villain. What awaits me with the others? But one day when I was stealing, some policemen arrested me. I couldn't escape in time, and they took me to an orphanage, where things did not improve by saying that I was the devil. They tortured me every day in the worst unimaginable ways. I always regenerated. The torture continued to the point of no longer being able to feel no emotion. No fear, no pain, no terror, just I smiled. Smiling is the best thing I can do, tricking my brain into believing that I'm happy, and that's how it's been until now. Time skips 7 years. Now we can see an Izuku running out of the orphanage with a backpack and a big smile. Izuku, well, after everything that happened, I finally escaped from those mutant penguins. Now I'm free. I just have to know what I'm going to do, but that doesn't matter much. I'll wait 10 months and enter the UA. I have training. Since my black form uses a lot of energy, I ran again, as life taught me. Until I passed under a bridge and my whole life changed. We can see a bony man walking with his purchases under a bridge. Tashinori, I think I overdid it with my transformation. I won't be able to be a hero until at least tomorrow, he said with a nervous smile. But then you see a green mass coming out of a sewer. Moko, oh, a container. It may not be the best, but it's enough, he said, laughing. Tashinori, one last blow won't hurt, he said with a smile. Moko, just let yourself be caught, and know nothing will happen to you. All Might, he said with fear. All Might. That's right, villain, and your days of misdeeds ended today. Detroit, he said to give a big blow to the villain that dissolved him. Seeing that the villain dissolved, he put him in a bottle. But Izuku, All Might? He said excitedly. All Might. Hello, young man. As you can see, I have to take this villain to the police station, so. Izuku, wait, I have to ask you a question, he said, this determined. All Might, hearing the young man's determination, just agreed, letting him ask his question. Izuku, someone like me with a villain quirk, with a quirk intended to affect others at the time of combat, both enemies and allies, someone with a cursed gift, can I be a hero? Can I be a hero like you? Save everyone with a smile without asking for anything in return, be the symbol of peace that when people see me they smile knowing that I have arrived, that I would even give my life for them, he said with a smile. For 8 years in the orphanage I was tortured, telling me that I was the devil. That's why now I can only laugh. My mind was implanted to always keep a smile. That's why I can no longer feel sad, my fear, or anything other than a smile. So All Might, can I be a hero? He said with a big toothy smile as tears fell unconsciously. All Might, a quirk doesn't decide who you are. A quirk doesn't tell you if you are a villain or a hero. That's up to you. That's why, also because of your motivations, I want to make you a proposal. I want you to be my successor. Izuku, huh? He said confused. All Might, I want you to inherit my quirk, my power, the flame that has saved millions of people, so that you can be the best symbol of peace. Boy, you. Izuku / All Might, you can be a hero. Izuku, that was the phrase that started it all, my adventure, my dream, he said with a smile. Now we can see Izuku in front of a Clase door. Izuku, this will be my first step to being a hero, he said as he passed through the door. Izuku, and that's how it all started, from the attack on the USJ to the sports festival, the internships, the camp, and the day when. Aizawa, Midoriya, we need your help, he said, entering the room, drawing everyone's attention. Izuku, oh, what's wrong, mommy caterpillar? He said with a smile. Aizawa, just because I adopted you, because if not, look, you'll be transferred to Class B. He released this. Everyone at that moment was in shock, the strongest in the class. But why? Izuku, okay, he said, raising his thumb. I won't even ask why. They thought with a drop of sweat. Aizawa, if you're wondering why you're the strongest in the class and you're going to go with Class B, so the classes are equal, so grab your stuff and go. Your dorm stuff is already being moved to the new 1B dorm for you, so, bye, he said somewhat sadly. Izuku, don't be sad, I'm just going to change courses. It's not like we didn't see each other. Goodbye to Miko, goodbye Bakatsuki, goodbye Dad, he said, fist bumping Aizawa. Aizawa, you fill me with pride, he said with a smile. Izuku, I know, he said, this one to leave. Now we can see Izuku walking straight to Class B. Izuku, I'll be able to see her again, he said excitedly. He waited outside because Vlad told him that he would let him know about the new student. He just waited for Vlad's signal and went in. The moment he entered, he saw with a smile how his new and only friend was sitting there watching him, and he became happy when he saw how his serious friend sketched a slight smile and blushed a little. Izuku, hi, I'm Izuku, just Izuku, he said with a smile. My only friend. The green-haired boy entered the room and everyone stared at him. He was a very handsome young man to a certain extent, but what confused them was why him. Kendo, Professor Vlad, I don't want to sound rude, but is there a reason why you were chosen to be in our classroom? She said confused. Vlad, actually yes, he is the strongest in his class. His lack of fear and pain make him someone truly fearsome, so, to level the power of both classes, he will be with us from now on, he said smiling. Izuku, what's up? He said with a smile. Vlad, well's not anyone in particular you want to sit with? He said seriously. Izuku, with her, he said pointing at Yui. Vlad, may I ask why? He said confused. Izuku, she's my ghost girlfriend, he said with a smile. At that moment, the B room had their mouths on the floor. Vlad was also a little surprised because he never expected one of his friends to be so quiet with a boyfriend. Yui, WWH what? She said blushing and stuttering. Izuku, ha ha ha, I got you to blush, he said laughing. No, I'm joking. But she's my only friend, he said with a big smile that made several girls blush. At that moment everything calmed down, and a few girls sighed in relief. Vlad, well then I don't see why not. Put your desk next to her, he said so the green-haired boy would nod. At that moment the green-haired boy put his desk next to Yui and looked at her with a smile. Yui, what's wrong? She said blushing. Izuku, nothing, I just didn't remember that you were so cute, he said turning around to look in front. Yui, Lili Linda? She said blushing. At that moment everyone was shocked to see the quietest and most serious person in her class blushing. Izuku, yes pretty, he said without turning to look at her. At this Yui with a blush just decided to look ahead, trying to ignore the green-haired boy. Yui, stupid and sensual. Izuku, wait, Izuku? Why did I call him that? Why did I call him sensual? She thought, blushing to the point of spewing smoke from her ears. This only made the green-haired boy laugh a little, making some girls blush with his laughter. Vlad just continued his class until the bell rang. Vlad, well, now it's time for music with Mike. I'm here, this one shouted. Vlad, with the well, goodbye young people, he said to leave. Mike, so what do you think we'll do today? He said excitedly. Izuku, study music, even though that won't help us in a real battle because it's not like we can dedicate a song to a villain, and that's why he'll give up, he said sarcastically. Yui, hey, don't be rude, she said seriously. Izuku, sorry, he said laughing a little. Mike, you say it like you know how to play. Boy, why don't you play us a song? He said, handing him a guitar. Izuku, yes sure, why not, he said with a smile. He stepped forward and took the guitar to start playing arpeggiating music. He started walking between the desks and began to sing. Izuku, if it were up to me, I would do the impossible to have you whole. Oh, if it were up to me. You would be the wind that moves my flag. And if it were up to me, I would take you with me even if it hurts. Oh, if it were up to me. I would invent a path on your hips. I told her, fix yourself up, without referring to clothes. And she told me, I don't know, I don't look that broken either. I was so little and there were so few like her. The most normal thing about her was that she seemed so crazy. I was the singer, and she was the one who gave the note. She told me 1,000 stories, but I was never the protagonist. She loved the rain and I was going drop by drop. She has already changed for another, and I won't change her for another. If it were up to me, I would do the impossible to have you whole. Oh, if it were up to me. You would be the wind that moves my flag. And if it were up to me, I would take you with me even if it hurts. Oh, if it were up to me. I would invent a path on your hips. She wanted to change me everything that I couldn't before. And she stole my time as if I had moments to spare, no matter how much she took from me. If she called me, she was never late. It was like a poison, but I drank it to satisfy myself. And she seems good, even when she's bad. And I call her Sky, because with her I get wings. And something in me stops when she leaves. I know that I need her, and that's not good, but it calms me down. It's normal that she stops and stops, if she accelerates and can do it. Then she gives me life and leaves. She knows what she should do, and she doesn't want to. Since she doesn't want to love me, she asks and I answer. What now? If it were up to me, I would do the impossible to have you whole. Oh, if it were up to me. You would be the wind that moves my flag. And if it were up to me, I would take you with me even if it hurts. Oh, if it were up to me. I would invent a path on your hips. I don't know why you give me life and then you kill me, I don't know. I want to forget you and you treat me better, I don't know. For you it's just a game and it's nothing more, and I don't know. You were always the gun and I was the bullet, I don't know. You love to play with fire and there are millions of flames, I don't know. How far we will go, tell me where, I don't know. I only see fear and wanting, but I can't and I don't know what to do. If it were up to me, I would do the impossible to have you whole. Oh, if it were up to me. You would be the wind that moves my flag. And if it were up to me, I would take you with me even if it hurts. Oh, if it were up to me. I would invent a path on your hips. At that moment, everyone applauded the green-haired boy in amazement, but he only stood in front of Yui with a smile that made her blush massively, as well as two other girls. Yui, what? Said this redhead. Izuku, what did you think? Said this flirt. Yui, well, I guess, she said, turning away. Izuku, wow, that breaks my fragile heart, he said, pretending to be sad. Yui, it was beautiful, she said without thinking. At that moment everyone looked at Yui in surprise. It was the first time they heard her scream. It was something curious. Izuku, wow, I didn't know you liked it so much. That flatters me, he said with a smile. Yui, just sit down, okay? She said, turning away with a blush. Izuku, no problem, he said to give the guitar to present Mike and stare at Yui. Yui, what do you see in me? She said, blushing. Izuku, you're very cute when you blush, he said, closing his eyes. At that moment Yui just closed her eyes with a big blush. Yui, idiot, she said, blushing but with a slight smile. Battles. Now we can see Izuku in the classroom waiting for the bell to ring for the dismissal. He was at his desk while playing with a pencil and occasionally looking at Yui until finally the bell for the end of classes was heard. Izuku with a smile just stood up from his desk. He put his things away and stood in front of Yui and stared at her. Yui, what do you want? She said with a slight blush. Izuku, nothing, I'm just waiting for you to pack your things before we go, he said with a smile. Yui, oh okay, wait for me, she said as she started to pack her things. After finishing packing her things, Yui was going to put on her backpack, but Izuku took it from her and put it on him. Izuku, now yes, let's go, he said with a smile to start moving forward. Yui, I can do it alone, she said with a pout. Izuku, I know, he said smiling. Yui, so? She said confused. Izuku, I don't want you to push yourself harder than you should, he said smiling. Yui just turned her head with a slight blush. Yui, thank you, she said a little blushing. Izuku, hey, he chuckled. No problem, he said with a smile. Two girls in the distance watched this with a bit of jealousy that no one noticed. After that, Class B headed to their respective dormitories but found Class A. Izuku was about to greet them but saw how they ignored him and just walked past. Izuku, hey, what's wrong? He said with a smile. Denki, now you are a Class B trash, so we can't hang out with you anymore, he said without looking at him. Bakugo, trash, he said while looking at Izuku. Izuku at that moment just started laughing, drawing everyone's attention. Izuku, wait? Are you serious? Let me laugh harder, he said, laughing more. It doesn't matter what class you're in, or what class you are from, we all have the same opportunity, and believe me, there are many in Class B who are better than you, he said while Class B smiled, and believe me. It doesn't matter what class I'm in, I'm still the one who kicked your butt in the finals, he said with a mocking smile. But hey, come on guys, we already realized what kind of people these are. Let's go to our dorms, the pizza's on me. With a big bang, he said like a little kid. Those from Class B with a smile just went after him. They thought that Izuku would be ashamed of being in Class B, or that it would hurt him that his friends treated him that way, but they were surprised to see how he just made fun of them, and he even said that Class B was better than some of the A. They arrived at the dorm and Izuku quickly took the phone and ordered pizzas. Izuku, preferences? He said looking at them. Ibara, vegetarian, she said with a slight blush. Monoma, extra meat, he said drooling. Kinoko, with mushrooms, she said the same. Yui was just quiet. She wouldn't order a pizza with extra tomato sauce, it would sound weird. Izuku, well, I want a vegetarian pizza, a meat one, an extra mushroom one, and I want 2 extra large ones with extra tomato, he said with a smile. At that moment Yui just opened her eyes, a little surprised. She wouldn't say anything because honestly it didn't bother her. She just started to drool a little as she already savored that pizza full of tomato. Tetsu, tomatoes? He said confused. Izuku, sorry, but I love tomatoes, he said with a nervous smile. Yui was just a little surprised. She didn't think she would share those tastes with someone, but she just turned her head a little, blushing. The pizza arrived while later Izuku took the tomato pizzas and gave the rest to the boys. He just went to sit with Yui. Izuku, do you want some tomato? He said with a smile. Yui, hide it, yes, she screamed. Izuku, oh okay, I see that you like them. Apparently we have similar tastes, right Yui, he said with a smile that made the brunette blush. Yui, whatever, she said, taking a slice of pizza and starting to eat it. Izuku blushed a little as he watched Yui eat. She looked cute to a certain point. He just turned his head away to avoid them seeing his blush. After that the class continued eating. They were going to watch a movie and sleep, but Izuku said he was already tired and would fall asleep sooner. Izuku, good night guys, he said going up the stairs. Ibara, Midoriya, wait, he said stopping Izuku. Izuku, oh yeah Ibara, what's wrong? He said with a smile, making the blonde girl blush. Ibara, and nothing, we just wanted to thank you for the pizzas. God will bring something good into your life for your great action, she said, joining her hands in a sign of prayer. Izuku, he said with a laugh, I wish that would have come to me a long time ago, he said laughing. Ibara, oh, what do you mean? She said, confused, just like the whole room that had been left silent by the green-haired boy's response. Izuku, oh no, nothing, just one of my stupid answers, he said laughing a little. Sleep well, I love you, with an explosion, he said, making a mime of an explosion while going up the stairs. The whole hall had fallen silent. I didn't know what to say. Monoma decided to break the silence. Monoma, well, more pizza for us, he said, somewhat nervous. At that moment the whole room decided to sit down again, but now with one thought in mind. Class B, what's wrong Midoriya? They thought, confused. Yui, I'll help you, it's the least I can do as a friend, right? She thought with a slight smile. The next day. It was 5 in the morning. The green-haired boy had woken up to be able to prepare breakfast for everyone. He began to cook eggs with oregano, pepper and ham. He prepared the 21 dishes. Orange juice and a plate with some cookies next to each one. The smell began to attract the students, who one by one went down to sit at the table. In the end, when they all went down, they began to have breakfast together. They only enjoyed the flavor of the food, wondering who had made it, but their thoughts did not last long when they saw the green-haired boy coming out of the kitchen with a plate for him. Izuku, good morning, he said with a big smile. Kendo, good morning Midoriya, did you prepare this? She said, smiling, while the green-haired boy nodded. Well, thank you very much, she said, bowing. Izuku, hey, sit down. No problem, really, I wanted to do this, he said with a smile that made her blush a little. Kendo, EOKB, but still thank you very much, he said, turning his head. Then the green-haired boy with his plate and a jug of sauce sat next to a black-haired woman who had saved a place for him. Izuku, did you save a place for me? He said happily. Yui, what do you think? He said, sketching a slight smile. Izuku, that's why I love you, he said, hugging Yui, blushing massively. Yui, do you love me? She said, blushing. Izuku, yes, I love you, he said with a smile. Yui, I too, she said, lowering her head, blushing. Izuku, I know, he said, smiling tenderly. This smile would make a few girls blush, but more so Yui. He just turned his head to the side so that no one would see his blush. After everyone had breakfast, they headed towards their living room. Vlad, well, brats, put on your hero costumes and you will have urban battles, he said seriously, so that everyone nodded. At that moment, everyone went to put on their hero costumes. Izuku took Yui to the locker room and then he went to the men's costume. They changed and headed towards a field where there was an arena. Vlad, well, the fights will be decided at random, so take a number, he said seriously while everyone nodded. We'll skip the side fights and jump to the important. Vlad, last fight Ibara Shiozaki vs Izuku, he said this seriously so that the two nodded and went up to the arena. Ibara, I hope for a good fight, he said, getting into a fighting pose. Izuku, no one has ever been able to give me a good fight. I hope you can be the first, he said with a smile. Ibara, oh, believe me, I will be, she said. She was also smiling. Vlad, start, he said this so that Ibara would get serious, and Izuku, well, this one remained the same. Ibara quickly sent her hair at Izuku. He didn't even bother to dodge it, resulting in his hair trapping him. He, without giving a damn, activated his rays, repelling Ibara's hair. Izuku, I hope for a good fight, he said this to activate one for all throughout his body and run towards her. In a quick movement he arrived at Ibara. He was about to hit her, but he stopped a centimeter from her face and tapped her on the forehead with his fingers. Izuku, let's start again. I'll go slower, he said to return to his sane position. Ibara, why yes, she said, blushing from the tap on her forehead. Izuku just stood still watching Ibara. Izuku, try to improve your precision with your vines. Come, I'll wait for you, he said with a smile. Vlad fights while teaching, he thought with a smile. At that moment Ibara just acknowledged. She directed her hair towards Izuku, and he only moved an inch so that she wouldn't hit him, but Ibara just smiled and moved her hair towards Izuku. He with a smile just watched as Ibara tried hard to beat her. Izuku, incredible, he said with a smile directed at Ibara, blushing her a little. He only took the whip with his arm and pulled Ibara towards him. He put her face to face with him, making the girl blush because of the boy's closeness. He only gave her a light blow that was more than enough to stop her. Hurting her was to push her out of the sand, but before falling Izuku grabbed her by the waist. Izuku, you managed to hurt me, he said, showing that his arm was bleeding a little. Ibara, I'm sorry, this red one said. Izuku, are you kidding? You are incredible, Ibara. You are the first one who manages to hurt me in what I have been here at the academy, he said, laughing. You are a very powerful person, he said, making Ibara blush. Ibara, yes, she said, blushing. When talking with Ibara and Izuku, Yui, for some reason she felt a slight pain in her chest that didn't let her see it. She felt a lump in her throat for some reason but decided to ignore it because she didn't know what it was. And so the student day cycle passed peacefully, where Ibara now clung more to Izuku and Yui. To her annoyance, they were now walking through the hallways of the academy next to Class B, but they found themselves again in Class A. Bakugo, look guys, I found a trash, he said, approaching Izuku's shit, he said with a sly smile. Izuku was going to make fun of him but was surprised to see how Yui slapped Bakugo. Yui, don't talk like that about Izuku again, she said. She was upset. Bakugo, how dare you, he said, returning the blow to Yui, who knocked her to the ground with the force. Izuku with a smile just approached Yui and picked her up. Izuku, are you okay? He asked calmly, but when he took his hand off Yui's cheek he could see how it was completely red and light tears were coming out. Everyone saw how Izuku's smile gradually dissolved, leaving him with a cold look without any emotion shown. Izuku just approached Bakugo, and they saw how he punched him that knocked him to the ground. This non-compliant shot Bakugo's enzyme and started hitting him relentlessly until everyone saw how he was bleeding from his face. Izuku, nobody touches my Yui, he said, this annoyed. For the first time in a long time, the green-haired man felt fury, anger, desire to kill someone. Everyone, sue Yui? These people thought, confused and some jealous. Yui's yours? I thought she was blushing. But it was until someone came and separated them. Aizawa, now leave it, it's not worth it, he said seriously, pushing the green-haired boy away from Bakugo. Izuku, look Dad, tell your students not to mess with my class. Oh, the same thing will happen to them as that garbage, understand? He said with a smile, looking at Class A, which scared them. Uraraka, and we are not afraid of you, she said. She was nervous. Izuku, no, but they should, he said, laughing a little. He just approached Yui and started caressing her cheek with his thumb, making her blush. Izuku, I'll put some ointment on you, come on, he said, while the whole class agreed to, a little scared. After that, Class B arrived at their dormitories. Everyone looked at Izuku with a little fear. It was the first time they saw him with such a serious face. He was just putting some ointment on Yui. Izuku, this is my fault, he said seriously. Yui, no it's not, she said seriously. Izuku, but if you hadn't defended me, this wouldn't have happened, he said as he continued rubbing cream on her cheek. Yui, I did it because I wanted to, it's not your fault, really, she said with a slight smile. Izuku, from now on I promise that no one will hurt you, he said, putting his smile back on. Yui at that moment only remembered how the green-haired boy defended her. Izuku, nobody touches my Yui. At this she blushed but calmed down and smiled back at the green-haired boy. At that moment everyone relaxed when they saw the green-haired boy calmer. Yui, understood, she said with a slight blush. Then Izuku with a smile just gave Yui a kiss on the forehead, making her blush even more. Izuku, well, I have to go there, the door opens. Izuku watched as someone entered the dorms, someone he never expected to see again. The entire room went to greet the gentleman who entered, but when they saw Izuku's look they decided it wasn't good. Izuku, what are you doing here? He said seriously. Inko, Izuku, she said with a smile. Team training. Everyone could notice the tense atmosphere. The green-haired boy's smile was gone again. He saw her, the person for whom all his problems began to form, his mother. Inko, Izuku, she said with a smile. Izuku, what are you doing here? He said with a smile. Go away, I don't want to see you ever again, he said smiling. Inko, Izuku, I want you to come back home, I miss you, son, she said, starting to cry fake tears. Izuku, I'm not your son, I'm not a Midoriya anymore, he said still with his smile. Inko, Izuku, are you really going to continue with that? You're smiling, it's obvious that you want to get back with me, even you know that it was just a slight mistake, she said, trying to get Izuku to come back to her. Izuku, you kicked me out of the house. When I was 4 years old you called me a villain. Because of you I lived stealing in the streets to eat. One day some officers beat me up and arrested me to take me to an orphanage where they told me the devil himself tortured me for more than 8 years. At that moment I began to trick my brain. Maybe if I have a smile, I will never feel bad, I will always be happy. You know what I got, lack of pain, fear, despair. I can't feel those emotions, I can only put on a smile, he said with his smile while tears fell. Because of your damn fault. But you know what, now I am in the UA, training to be a hero, because no matter what you have told me, I will be one, he said, wiping his tears while still having his smile. Inko, well, you don't leave me any other choice. I try the good way, but it's not possible. Izuku, right now as your mother I order you to come with me and never come back here again. You will be very useful to me, so pack your things and let's go, she said seriously. Izuku at that moment just started laughing. It was a quiet laugh, but it was somewhat disturbing in that situation. Izuku, I'm sorry, but you're not my mother anymore, he said with a quiet laugh. It's him, he said, pointing to Aizawa who was behind Inko. Aizawa, Inko Midoriya? He said, looking at her. Inko, what do you want, boom? She said, annoyed. Aizawa, you are under arrest for attempted murder and abandonment of a minor. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you and blah blah blah, he said. At that moment Inko tried to run, but Aizawa wrapped her with his bandages and took her away. Aizawa, good job holding her back, boy, excellent job, he said with a smile before leaving with Inko in her bandages, who was struggling. The moment Aizawa left, Izuku with a smile only saw his companions. Izuku, sorry to see that, he said laughing. But nobody expected Yui to forcefully hug the green-haired boy. She hugged him, and since she was smaller she only reached up to his chest. Izuku, from what I see you care about me, he said laughing a little. Yui, of course I worry, you idiot, she said, hugging him. Everything will be okay, that's already in the past, she said. You can cry, no one will judge you, she said while everyone agreed. Izuku, I can't, he said smiling. Ibara, don't be ashamed, she said. hugging the green-haired boy. Surprising everyone, we all have to cry from time to time, she said, smiling. Izuku, no, they don't understand me, he said, for everyone to see I can't cry, he said with a smile. At that moment everyone felt bad for the green-haired boy, they simply did not know what to say. When they heard his story they cried. They did not think that the boy was so happy and so playful that they had with them there would suffer in that way. Izuku, but well, never mind, I'll go to sleep. I hope to see you tomorrow with a big bang, he said like a child with a smile between his teeth. Ibara, are really Midoriya went through so much? She said while crying. Kendo, and then he is always with a smile, he said the same. Reiko, and it's not because he wants to, it's because he can't stop doing it, she said, shedding light tears. Monoma, but what strikes me is what did that lady mean by villain? She said seriously. Ibara, you don't think Midoriya is a villain, right? She said scared. Reiko, no, it's not because of that, she said seriously. Look, I'll explain a little about my quirk. It allows me to see presences, weaknesses, and many more things, but what confuses me about Midoriya is that there's always something behind him, a dark mass, something that doesn't let me see him. But for some reason he knows I see him, because every time I try he stars at me, that's why I stopped trying. But what I don't know is what is the ability of that, she said, confusing and scaring everyone a little. Yui, I think I know, she said this so that everyone could see. Almost always when I'm with Izuku I can't activate my quirk, she said this so that everyone would be surprised. At first I thought it was my problem, so I went to Recovery Girl and everything was fine. I could use my quirk without problems, but it happened to me again when I was with Izuku, and it has been like that until now. I think that his quirk, apart from the enhancement, can nullify others' quirks, she said this seriously. At that moment everyone was surprised and thought, a quirk that can nullify other quirks is a very beneficial quirk, and at the same time not. Reiko, are you sure? She said seriously. Yui, not quite, but if he gets out of control, let me explain. The day that happened with the thing with Clase that fought with the explosive boy. I saw a slight black mass come out of him. While I was hitting him it got inside him when Professor Aizawa arrived, so I think this is his anti-quirk power, but it only comes out when he gets out of control, so to be sure we have to find a way to get him out of control, although I can't promise what will happen next, she said seriously. Kendo, well, tomorrow there is a confrontation against Class 1A, maybe something will happen there, she said seriously. At that moment everyone nodded and headed to their rooms to wait for tomorrow. The next day, we can see the green-haired boy waking up with his typical everyday smile and running down the stairs to prepare breakfast for everyone, but he was surprised to see Yui sitting. Izuku, so early, you're hungry? He said surprised. Yui, no, but I'll help you prepare breakfast for everyone, she said with a slight smile. Izuku, how did you know? He said confused. Yui, I just knew it now, shall we begin? She said with a smile, while Izuku smiled back and nodded. The smile that the green-haired boy returned made her blush a little, but she decided to calm down and enter the kitchen with him. They cooked while laughing, joking, a few screams from Yui to Izuku for dirtying, but above all blushes because of his compliments to her. Anyone who saw them would say that they looked like a couple. After they finished making breakfast they left him covered waiting for their companions, but Izuku just kept looking at Yui. Yui, what will you tell me now? She said with a slight smile. Izuku, I don't know, you're very beautiful at any time of the day, so telling you that would be like telling you that you look the same as yesterday. You're very beautiful, you know? He said with a somewhat flirtatious smile, looking at the brunette. The black-haired girl just blushed at the green-haired boy's comment and turned her head. Yui, idiot, just go take a shower, you stink, she said. The green-haired boy just laughed at a little, who confused Yui. Yui, what are you laughing at, you fool? She said, confused and a little upset. Izuku, I like to make you blush, bring out your beauty and tenderness to the extreme, he said, blushing at Yui. Well, I'll go take a bath, see you later, he said to leave. Yui, if you better go, idiot, she said, blushing but with a slight smile coming out of her lips. Then moments later Yui also went up to bathe, and after that we can see how everyone went down to eat. Everyone, seeing the food, was going to thank the green-haired boy, but he said no, that it was Yui, her alone. Everyone at that moment thanked Yui for the food, even the green-haired boy thanked Yui. A little confused asked the green-haired boy for explanations, and he just laughed a little and said, Thank you for preparing all the food by himself. This gave to understand that the green-haired boy gave all the credit to Yui even though he had done almost everything. Yui was only there to clean or cut vegetables since she did not know how to cook very well. She did not want to reject the apologies. She accepted them and everyone ate, praising the great food of Yui. After they ate, they went to their classroom where they told them what they already knew. They put on their hero suits and went to battle. It was going to be a 5-against-5 battle in an arena. Each team would have a crystal, and the first to break the opposing team's crystal wins. The team would be chosen at random but would be made up of members of the same class. The teams would pass until the last one was left. Team B versus Team D. Team B, Bakugo, Momo, Mineta, Denki and Jiru. Team D, Izuku, Yui, Ibara, Monoma, Kendo. Aizawa, okay, teams go to your positions. He said this so everyone agreed. For a moment you see Bakugo and Izuku exchange that look of rivalry that weighed on the atmosphere. After that, everyone went to their positions with their respective crystals. Aizawa, ready? He said through the microphone for everyone to nod. Okay, get started. Confrontation. Aizawa, begin, he said, blowing the whistle. Kendo, okay, what's the plan? She said seriously. Izuku, easy, we just have to. With Team Bakugo. Momo, so what's the plan? She said seriously. Bakugo, I don't know what the hell you're going to do, but I'm going for the nerdy son of a hitch, he said seriously as he left. Jiru, Bakugo, wait, he's already gone. Damn Bakugo, can he never work as a team? He said angrily. Momo, come on Kyuka, don't bother. Look, the plan will be this. I will go against Kendo. I am the only one who can face her. Kaminari, you will go against Kodai, your quirk benefits you against her. Jiru, you will go against Ibara, your sound waves can destroy vines, and Mineta, you will go against Monoma. It's practically a Quirkless against you. So now, let's go, she said while everyone agreed. In the chambers. Uraraka, typical Momo, always making good plans. That trash from Class B doesn't stand a chance, she said with a smile. Aizawa, do not underestimate my son's ability, he thought with a smile. Lida, it's obvious, being Class A we are superior to them by far. I wouldn't be surprised if they were thinking about giving up right now, he said, adjusting his glasses somewhat proudly. Kirishima, you are not confident. Lida, Midoriya's ability in both skill and intelligence is superior to Yayorozu, so I would not be surprised if at this moment they already had a plan against them, he thought with a smile. At that moment everyone looked at Kirishima badly except for one person. Tsuyu, are you defending that trash? Karo, she said, putting a finger on her chin. Tokoemi, I never heard him defend you guys, he said with a slight smile, annoying everyone. Kirishima, we don't know what the basis of their pride is, but they are wrong. Aizawa bro is stronger than everyone here, whether they like it or not, he said with a smile, looking at the screen just like Tokoemi. Aizawa, apparently there are smart people in this classroom, he thought with a smile. In the battle. Izuku, then that will be the plan, understood? He said as everyone agreed. Okay, disperse, he said as everyone went in different directions, but take care, taking Yui by the shoulder. Yui, you know I do, she said with a slight blush as well as a slight smile. Izuku, I just wanted to remind you, he said, smiling to let go of his shoulder and continue on his way. Yui, you take care of yourself too, Izuku, she said with a slight smile before leaving. The moment everyone went out to meet their respective rival, there was a change of plans. Yui ended up meeting Bakugo, something that shouldn't have happened, but having no other choice, she gets into a fighting stance. Bakugo, the nerd's girlfriend? He said, confused but with a sly smile. What would the nerd think if he found his girlfriend almost dead? He said with a psychopathic smile. At that moment Yui was a little scared but didn't back away. He took out a small stone from his compartment and pointed it at her. Bakugo, a rock? Ha 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 ha. He started laughing like crazy but quickly stepped aside when the rock that was coming towards him became giant. What? He said, confused. Yui, my quirk allows me to shrink and enlarge objects. This place is full of rubble, she said with a slight smile. Bakugo, and you think I care about that? He said, laughing. Let's see how long it takes you to die, he said, throwing himself to give Yui an explosion. Yui was going to try to avoid her, but she didn't react when Bakugo took her by the arm and put his hand on her face. Bakugo, time to die, he said with a big psychopathic smile, giving Yui an explosion in the face. In the chambers. Lita, ha, that piece of trash got what it deserved, he said with a sly smile. Aways, Professor, you must stop this, he said angrily. Aizawa, as long as you don't kill her, you can use your quirk in any way, he said seriously, therefore continue. Kinoko, this is not good, she said worriedly. Kibara, he's going to kill her, he said, scared. In the battle. We can see Yui on the ground almost dead. One more explosion of that magnitude, and she doesn't count anymore. She tried to stand up but couldn't. Her body no longer responded. She was already tired. Bakugo slowly approached her. Bakugo, come on, where's that smile from the beginning? He said, laughing. If I remember correctly, you told me there are a lot of rubble here. I didn't give you the chance to use any, right? He said, laughing like crazy. Yui, Pete, piss off, she said, this annoying woman. Bakugo, this is a good way to get revenge on Deku. What would happen if you find his girlfriend dead? He said, laughing. Yui, he will beat you, she said, panting from exhaustion. Bakugo, oh no, he won't, he said, laughing. Die, he said, punching Yui, which made her spit blood. Bakugo was going to keep hitting her, but he saw in the distance how Momo was about to lose at the hands of Kendo, and he couldn't let anyone on his team lose, so he left Yui there to her fate. Yui, damn, she said, this annoying. In the chambers. Tetsu, Professor, look how I left her, he said, annoyed. Aizawa, I'm sorry, but she's not dead, she's practically fine, he said seriously. Kibara, this is stupid, he said angrily. Aizawa, shut up, brat, everything is stupid, in this world nothing is fair, that's why you must face the forms and confront them, he said seriously. In the battle. Izuku, I think if I asked Yui out she would accept. I don't know, he said laughing, but in the distance he sees someone. What is it? No, he said, running. Yui, tell me you're okay, please tell me you're okay. Why Yui, he said, moving Yui's body. Yui, yes, I just need to get some sleep, she said, about to fall unconscious. Izuku, who did this to you? He said angrily. Yui, was Bakugo, she said this while coughing. Izuku, at that moment he put on a cold look, a look that didn't prove anything. He simply cut his hand, letting his blood fall into Yui's mouth. Everyone watched in shock as Yui's wounds regenerated, but she was already very tired. Yui, what happened? She said, surprised since she didn't feel anything. Izuku, nothing. Yui, you can rest, sleep. I'll wake you up when the fight is over, he said with a calm smile. Yui, thank you, Izuku. He said this to fall unconscious, and the green-haired boy quickly changed his expression. Izuku didn't answer anything, he just carried Yui in his arms. Everyone saw for the first time how he showed another expression that was neither happiness nor neutrality, it was fury. A large slingshot originated from where the green-haired man was and covered the entire battlefield. Everyone saw how the quirks of their companions stopped working. Bakugo, what the hell? He said, confused. Kendo, oh no, she said, scared. Monoma, do you think that happened? He said the same thing. But at that moment everyone fell silent when they saw how the green-haired boy walked slowly with Yui in his arms. Kendo, Monoma and Ibara, who had just arrived, were scared when they saw their partner, so they quickly approached, worried to see her. Ibara, what happened to him? She said, scared. The green-haired boy didn't answer anything and just gave Bakugo a furious look. Bakugo, what's up, nerd? Did you like my gift? He said, laughing. Momo, Bakugo, what did you do? She said, scared. Bakugo, just torture her, that's what they get by being with you. You heard me, useless, he said, laughing. Denki, Bakugo, that's not right, he said seriously. Mineta, hey, I think you went too far, he said, this one also seriously. Izuku didn't say anything and walked slowly, just approaching Bakugo. Izuku, so you like torturing people, he said while putting on a smile so deranged that it froze everyone's blood. Then why don't we torture you too, he said, laughing. At that moment the green-haired boy gave Bakugo a direct blow to the face that he couldn't dodge. This blow sent him flying against a nearby rock. Ibara, what's wrong with Izuku? She said, scared. Kendo, he just lost control. Seeing Yui like that I thought was enough for Monoma, and his sanity, he said seriously. But everyone fell silent and looked at Izuku in horror. Izuku, come on Bakugo, let's keep playing, he said, laughing. Bakugo, what the hell are you? He said, scared. Izuku, I am a demon, he said this to quickly give another blow to Bakugo and leave him on the ground. Bakugo, Why just leave me alone, he said, scared. Izuku, that was the same thing she told you, he said angrily. By this point Yui had already woken up and looked with a little fear at Izuku's new appearance. Izuku, don't touch her, because if you do something to her, you'll die, and you dare to hit her. You hit me, Yui, he said with such a cold look. I hope you can regret it on the way to your death, he said, about to pierce his chest. Bakugo looked at this with fear. He began to cry delight for the green-haired boy. Bakugo, leave me alone, what do you want from me? He said, crying. Izuku, she cried too, right? He said angrily. I just want to see you suffer, he said this, about to go through it, but he couldn't because he felt someone hug him. Yui, Izuku, please don't do it, this isn't you, just calm down, okay? She said, trying to calm the green-haired boy by hugging him tightly. At that moment everyone watched with relief as the black mass returned to the green-haired boy's body. Yui never stopped hugging him. Izuku, without looking Yui in the eyes, stood in the same position. Izuku, are you afraid of me? He said worriedly. Yui, just a little, she said, tightening the hug. Izuku, you would get away from me, he said with a feeling that he had not felt for a long time. Fear. Yui, no, never, he said, tightening his grip. Izuku, I strike you as someone scary or someone you should be afraid of. Yui, no, I see you as Izuku Midoriya, the most special person to me, she said, smiling with a slight blush. Izuku, thank you, he said, putting his jaw on Yui's head, using it as a support while he hugged her. Aizawa, the training is over, it's a tie, he said seriously. It seems that you finally found that person, right? They are, he thought with a slight smile. After training, everyone went to their classrooms. The day passed very peacefully, although Izuku was always looking out for Yui, and so the day passed until the end of class bell came and Izuku waited for Yui to put her things away. After that, Izuku carried the backpack to Yui's dorms, where everyone looked at him with a smile. They knew they shouldn't be afraid of the green-haired boy. He was their partner, he was their friend, so they didn't see the need. What's more, Ibara, well, I think you have an excellent power, she said shyly and with a blush. I think you will most likely be a great hero in the future, she said with a smile, while everyone acknowledged. Izuku, wait, what did you say? He said seriously, did you just tell me that? Ibara, yes, you will be a great hero, Izuku, she said, somewhat blushing. At that moment everyone saw with shock how for the first time the green-haired boy put on a sad expression. He was crying, but more than sadness it was happiness. Without thinking he quickly threw himself to hug Ibara, making her blush, making Yui jealous. Ibara, what's wrong? She said, blushing. Izuku, you are the first person other than him who tells me that with this power I can be a hero. Thank you very much, he said, crying. Ibara felt the tears falling on her hair and just raised her hand a little to caress the green-haired boy's hair. Ibara, you're welcome, we're friends, right? She said, blushing, and will be more, she thought, still blushing. Izuku, yes, he said, wiping his tears and putting on a smile. Friends, he said, smiling. After that nice moment everyone sat down to eat. This time Kendo would prepare the food, but of course Izuku helped her. He began to chat with Kendo while cooking, causing her to blush for her hints and causing jealousy in Yui and Ibara. When they finished cooking, they tied, washed their dishes, and each one returned to their bedroom. Yui was about to open the door to hers, but Izuku, hey Yui, he said, smiling as he approached her. Yui, oh yeah, what's wrong, Izuku? She said with a slight blush. Izuku, Yui, I want to go out, tomorrow, to the movies, you and me, he said seriously, looking at Yui. Yui, she said, blushing as hard as she could. Izuku, yes, it's just that I feel like something is happening to me when I'm with you. My heart doesn't stop beating very fast, and for some reason my chest hurts when something happens to you, so I want to go out with you, to know what it is that I have, he said seriously, looking at Yui. Yui just blushed, this despite her lack of expressiveness with others. She knew why that was. Did the green-haired boy fall in love with her? She just blushed when she imagined Izuku and her as a couple, although thinking about it, it didn't sound so bad. Yui, well, if you want, what time? She said, trying to stay calm, even though inside she was about to explode in a blush. Izuku, tomorrow is Saturday, so we could go in the afternoon, he said, smiling and blushing at Yui. Yui, hey, are you okay? Good night, she said, entering her room to prevent the green-haired boy from seeing her blush. Izuku, huh? Good night, Yui, he said with a smile to go to his room. Yui, He asked me out, she said, holding her chest to throw herself on her bed to put her face on the pillow. Ah, she said in a scream that she was muffled by her pillow while she moved her legs up and down. What could I wear tomorrow? It must be something he likes, but why am I wearing this outfit? Could it be that I also like it? She thought, standing up with a big blush. At that moment Yui imagined different scenarios of her with the green-haired boy as a couple while they tied together, slept together. They even did that. At that moment Yui blushed to her maximum power, falling back into bed. Yui, maybe it's not so bad, she said, looking with a silly smile and a blush at a selfie she had with the green-haired boy. Maybe it could work, she said, blushing. He will be mine. It was a new day at UA, and we can see the green-haired boy and Yui preparing breakfast. Izuku, so? He said while looking at Yui. Yui, so what? She said, confused and with a slight blush. Izuku, what time are we going to the movies? He said, confused. Yui, how about 5 o'clock? She said with a slight blush. Izuku, I don't know, the low light won't let me see your beauty, he said with a flirtatious smile. Yui, playing along, I know, but we have classes so you can appreciate me all you want during the day, she said with a slight smile. Yui just watched as the green-haired boy blushed a little and turned his head, which caused Yui to laugh slightly. The green-haired boy just continued cooking but was very red. Yui, hey, are you blushing? She said mockingly. Izuku, yes, your beauty is so magnificent that I am not worthy of appreciating it, he said, just to see how Yui began to get steam out of her ears and had a red face while the green-haired boy laughed a little. After the green-haired boy's revenge, they finished cooking everything and went up to take a bath. After that the boys came down, and then they came down. They thanked Yui again for the food, and the green-haired boy also thanked her while winning at her. Yui didn't understand why the green-haired boy took all the credit but decided not to say anything. After breakfast they headed to the academy. The day passed extremely calmly. Since as they did not meet Class A at any time, there were no problems. They continued their classes until the last one, which was Present Mike, I'm here, he said as he entered with a guitar. Izuku, okay, he said with a big smile. Present Mike, young Midoriya, I like the way you sing. I want you to sing another song, he said, this showing him, giving him his guitar. Izuku, but why? He said, confused. Present Mike, because if he doesn't do it, he doesn't have the grade, he said with a macabre look that made Izuku swallow hard. Izuku, since, he said, taking the guitar. At that moment the green-haired boy began to strum the guitar and saw his companions. Izuku, you know I want to dedicate this song to someone. I want to dedicate it to the girls, he said with a smile. It doesn't matter how you are, either your complexion, nor your body, you are flat, or you are plump with love, he said, laughing a little. They are all beautiful in their own way, he said, blushing a little at the girls. It's for you, he said, starting to play. Izuku, I meditated in the Himalayas. I went to hell and came back. I know well what it means to fight. I already lost when I won. I kissed the Venus de Milo and a goddess in Hollywood. From kicking so many roads? Today I know exactly that. Nothing is like you. Not the full moon. Not the sunset. Nothing is as perfect as you. Nothing has ever been like you. I had nightmares, loves, that were born to die. With their gorilla tricks. And their sleepless nights. Today they don't buy me with mirrors. I've already signed, I've already resigned. They don't give me, nor do I give advice. I know who I am and I have a reason, and nothing is like you. Not even the calm sea. Not even the storm. Nothing is as perfect as you. Nothing has ever been like you. Today I see you hunting insects, while I drink my coffee. You must have your defects, but my love does not see them. I dedicate to you the fresh time. What I am, what I will be. I do not offer you the past, because I forgot everything, and nothing is like you. Not the fresh rain. Not the sunrise. Nothing is as perfect as you. Nothing has ever been. Nothing is like you. Not the Mona Lisa. Not the Eiffel Tower. Nothing is as perfect as you. Nothing has ever been like you. I found you being invisible. Like I never imagined. Natural, so impossible. Like a dream I dreamed. The moment he finished playing, all the blushing girls began to applaud the green-haired man's song. It had a very beautiful meaning. Everyone began to whistle in applause, and he with a smile just bowed. After the class ended, everyone returned. Although the girls now saw Izuku with a blush, including Reiko, and no wonder, he's innocent, he doesn't care about your physique, he's handsome and he's a very nice person, he's the perfect package from that moment on. The girls began to make their own plans to conquer the green-haired man, but their thoughts were cut off when they saw Yui come out dressed in a casual way. Kendo, where are you going, Yui? She said, confused. Yui, well, I'm going to. Izuku, I'm ready, shall we go, Yui? He said, making all the girls blush because of how good he looked. Are you going out? They said, impressed. Girls, he got ahead of us, these jealous girls thought. Izuku, yes, he said with a smile. Well, see you later, he said, carrying Yui in a bridal manner to leave. Yui blushed massively when she felt Izuku's arms carrying her, but because of the speed she only clung to his chest. After a while they arrived at the cinema. Yui, see, how could you do that? She said, blushing and hitting his arm. Izuku, sorry, but I wanted to carry you, he said with a big smile. Yui, idiot, he said, looking at the ground, slightly moving a lock of his hair. Izuku, well, let's go watch the movie, he said happily while Yui nodded. After watching the movie we can see the two of them leaving the cinema. They were talking very calmly, but they didn't realize when they held hands their fingers intertwined, and so they went on until they heard a street artist. Artist, and remember, when your heart beats 1,000 times an hour, it's because you love that person. When you feel that you can't be without them, it's because it's the place when you feel that if they hurt you, you lose control. It's because your heart adores them, so your heart beats, and even hurts you. It's because you love that person, he said while everyone applauded. Yui and Izuku, who had been staying there listening to this, were curious about the boy's interpretation. Well, Izuku, since that was exactly what was happening to him with Yui. Izuku, wow, that happens to you when you love a person, he said, looking at Yui while she just acknowledged. Well, then I guess I love Yui, he said with a big smile. At that moment Yui just stared at the green-haired boy while his face slowly turned red. Yui, what, she said, blushing. Izuku, I love Yui Kodai, he said with a smile. Well, it's time to go, right? He said with a smile, while Yui with a red face nodded. Yui couldn't articulate a word at that moment. Izuku loved her. He didn't know how to feel, but what he did know was that he felt something, happiness. They arrived at the dormitories where everyone looked confused as Yui blushed, and the green-haired boy was happy. Ibara, what happened to Kodai? She said, confused. Izuku, I don't know, I just said that I loved her, and she got like that, he said this, leaving everyone in shock. Everyone, what? They said, surprised and some jealous. Yui, oh hey, don't say it like that, said this redhead. Monoma, old man, do you know what you just said? He said, surprised. Izuku, of course not, he said, laughing, I don't even know what love is. But a man on the street said that when you love another person you have the same thing that I have when I'm with Yui, and on a smaller scale with Ibara, he said, smiling. At that moment everyone was in shock again. They understood the green-haired boy's innocence, but they didn't think it was that much. They were surprised to hear what he said, but one green-haired girl just blushed. Izuku, but well, I don't know what will happen, but I'm going to sleep tomorrow. We must be prepared with a big explosion, he said like a little boy while going up the stairs. But nobody came out of the shock. Practically the green-haired boy had just declared his love to two girls at the same time, but after a while everyone came out of the shock. Now the girls knew who the green-haired boy liked, but with Ibara and Yui it was different. They just stared at each other while the tension rose. Ibara/Yui, he will be mine, they said, these determined ones. I love you too. Right now we can see the green-haired boy in his room. Izuku, it was a great day and I love Yui and Ibara. I don't know what it is though, he said, laughing. I think it's food. Well, never mind, I think I'll go to sleep, he said with a smile to lay down on his bed. And was a song dedicated to Yui? Will she like it, or will she look at me weird? Nah, this isn't the first time she's looked at me weird. Tomorrow I'll dedicate a song to her, he said, chuckling. I hope to see her blushing. She's very cute, he said, looking at the ceiling as he slowly fell asleep. According to him, shit, I can't sleep, he said while moving his legs. What can I do? He said, confused. Well, it wouldn't hurt me, he said, to take his headphones and his phone to start watching Dross videos. The next day. We can see that it was 6 in the morning and the green-haired boy was shivering with a blanket covering him. Izuku, I knew it wasn't a good idea. What time is it? 6 in the morning, he said, upset. Damn, I didn't sleep at all and today is a school day. Shit, he said, laughing. Then the green-haired boy took a quick bath and changed to go downstairs. When he went downstairs he saw how everyone was having breakfast, and Yui next to him had an empty seat that was also next to Ibara with a plate of food on it. Izuku agreed and arrived at the place. Izuku, good morning, said this sleepy guy. Ibara, gee, good morning. Izuku, how did you sleep? She said with a slight blush. Izuku, sleep? He said with a slight smile. I don't need. He couldn't finish as he fell face first into his plate of food. Everyone watched with a drop of sweat as he began to snore. As he dropped his cutlery, he was asleep under his arms where he accidentally touched Ibara's leg. She blushed deeply but calmed down, just taking her hand away from the green-haired boy and began to caress his hair. Ibara, it seems that she didn't sleep at all, she said, blushing but with a smile while caressing her hair. Yui, hey, that's mine. She said this as she also began to caress the green-haired boy's hair. Ibara, oh, but I don't see your name on it, she said with a smile as she stroked her hair harder. Yui, maybe not, but he already said he loves me, so he belongs to me, she said while carrying him even harder. Ibara, well, he also indirectly said that he loves me, so therefore he is mine, she said, carrying him even harder. Monoma, gee girls, he said with fear. Yui/Ibara, what? They said with a cold look. Monoma just pointed at Izuku, who was foaming at the mouth while light strands of green hair were scattered all over the table. Yui/Ibara, Izuku, they said, these worried ones. After that they put the green-haired boy on his feet and gave him CPR just to see how he began to react. Izuku, head, that was really crazy, he said, laughing, making everyone sweat. After that they went to their classroom to have a very quiet day until lunchtime. They went out and sat at a random table, but the green-haired boy saw the perfect opportunity. Then he stood at the table, drawing everyone's attention. Yui, what are you doing? She said, confused. Izuku, hey, this is really boring, right? How about a song? He said as everyone started screaming. Okay, pass me a guitar, he said, extending his hand, and a guitar came to him thanks to someone's quirk. Reiko, I like the way he sings, she said, apologizing but with a blush. Then everyone started to shake their heads when they heard the melody that the green-haired boy was making. Izuku just winked at Yui, making her blush. Izuku, okay, here we go. I have an old guitar. Pregnant with this song. Friends who never give advice. And a kiss at my disposal. What I have is so little that it is worth 1,000,000. Then everyone sees how Monoma starts playing some demos on the table, giving rhythm to the song. Izuku, I have the air I breathe. And the sea all to myself. Old loves and sighs. And if someone says no, I say yes. The little that I have is so little that it is also for you. Then everyone watched in shock as Tetsu began to play a trumpet that Momo, the only one who wanted to redeem herself with the green-haired boy, had created, as well as Monoma's drumsticks and a drum cymbal. Izuku only looked at Yui and occasionally at Ibara, who made the two blush, thinking that the song was for them. Izuku, the footprints of your bare feet. The smoke from the coffee maker. 3 fake surrealist paintings. Your laughter that brings spring. Even when the weather is terrible. The little I have is so little. But it is essential. Everyone listened as Monoma began to play the drum cymbal while making rhythm with the other drumstick on the table, and Tetsu continued to play the trumpet. Izuku, I've got a downpour for my summer. And a wave to surf. Monoma/Tetsu, to surf. Izuku, a shadow that follows me wherever I go. And 2 feet to walk. The little I have is so little that there is enough to give away. Monoma again sounded the drum cymbal, while Izuku and Tetsu continued playing. Izuku looked at Yui for a moment, and smiled, seeing how a slight blush was on her face, but for some reason it also made him happy to see how Ibara was also blushing. Izuku, I have the news that is not news. That I don't care about anything. I learned to graduate in everything from an apprentice. And I don't beg for water under the bridge. The little I have is so little that makes me happy. Then Tetsu started to play a solo on the trumpet, while everyone quietly nodded their heads to the melody. After that he fell silent, and Monoma just started to tap his drumsticks on the table, while Izuku played quietly. Izuku, how far away is fortune from what they sell on TV? If it's free to go see the moon, let the one who is hurt not complain. The little I have is so little that there is no one to order me. Then Tetsu began to play again. Izuku, I have a clock between the clouds. A dream that goes to a party. Your breasts like two cherubs. The afternoon to take a nap. Even though the world is upside down, the little I have is so little that it gains interest. Then the calm melody ended, and they started making it more lively like before. Izuku, I got a downpour for my summer and a wave to surf, a shadow that follows me wherever I go. And 2 feet to walk. The little I have is so little that there is enough to give away. I have the news that is not news. That I don't care about anything. I learned to graduate in everything from an apprentice. And I don't beg for water under the bridge. Monoma, water under the bridge. Izuku, the little I have is so little that makes me happy. Speak. He said this just for Tetsu and Monoma to start making a calm rhythm as the song ended. At that moment everyone started to applaud for the song of the 3 boys from Class B. More for Izuku. He with a smile just got off the table and went to where Yui was. Yui, you couldn't hold back, right? She thought with a slight smile. Izuku, no, the atmosphere was very boring and I wanted to dedicate a song to you, he said in a whisper that only Yui heard. This made Yui blush massively, and she unintentionally remembered the green-haired boy's words. Izuku, I love Yui Kodai. Izuku, so do you like me? He said with a smile. Yui, you know my answer. Definitely I loved it, she said while resting her head on the green-haired boy's shoulders. This only made the green-haired boy blush and some girls get jealous, especially Ibara and a gray-haired boy. Izuku, and why is that? He asked with a smile. Yui, because you are very comfortable, she said blushing, and this she said giving him a kiss on the cheek. It's because of the song, she said blushing but with a slight smile. Izuku, then get used to the songs because if it's for a kiss from you I'll even become a singer, he said smiling just to see how Yui's face filled with a red dye. So after that the classes continued quietly until the time of departure. The green-haired boy left without saying anything, which confused Yui since she always waited for her. She was confused and made herself small with her quirk and began to follow him. She saw how Izuku went up to the roof of his bedrooms and put on a smile while looking at the sky. Izuku, hey, if you're listening to me, thanks, he said smiling. I don't know if you exist, but after what happened today I think so. She kissed me on the cheek. It's the best day of my life, he said with a big smile, making Yui blush. Seriously, thanks, he said smiling. Then Yui quickly went back to the stairs behind the rooftop door. Then it became big, and she opened it only to see how the green-haired boy was looking at the sky with a smile. Yui, why are you smiling, Izuku? She said, pretending that she didn't know while blushing. Izuku, I thank God that you gave me a kiss on the cheek, he said with a big smile, making Yui blush to abysmal levels. Yui, why you really like me that much? She said blushing. Izuku, yes, I loved it, he said sitting down to look at the starry sky. Then Yui, although blushing, just approached him and sat next to him. Izuku, sometimes I think that everything that has happened to me so far was the best to culminate at this point, he said while Yui nodded looking at the sky. Their hands slowly came together and unconsciously Yui leaned on the green-haired boy's shoulders. Izuku, I want to be with you always, of course, if you allow me, he said smiling while Yui also put on a smile. Nobody touches me, Yui. Yui, Izuku, you know, she said this attracting Izuku's attention. You're very beautiful. Yui, I think about what you told me when we went to the movies. I think I love Yui Kodai. Yui, me too, I love Izuku Midoriya, she said with a tender smile looking at the green-haired boy. The green-haired boy, seeing Yui's smile, couldn't help but blush. Seeing this, Yui couldn't hold it in any longer and pulling the green-haired boy's head closer, she brought their lips together, bringing them together, as the starry sky illuminated the moment Yui kissed the green-haired boy with all her love, and he only kissed her back. Then as they parted, the green-haired boy just grabbed Yui's head while caressing her cheek. Izuku, I like that one more than the one on the cheek, he said with a slight smile. Yui, well then you can take as many as you want, she said with a slight smile. Izuku. But then what he couldn't finish because Yui's lips joined his, giving rise to a new kiss. Yui, you talk too much so I'll shut you up with my kisses, she said as she began to kiss the green-haired boy. He continued kissing him while he slowly knocked him down to the ground, leaving this part of him while he sat on his lap. Yui, I love you, she said with a big smile as she continued kissing the green-haired boy. I love you. Right now we can see in the bedroom room how Yui was having breakfast next to the green-haired boy. He just stared at her while they were eating. Yui, anything to tell me? She said with a slight smile. Izuku, I would tell you that you are beautiful, but I think you already know that, he said while drinking his instant noodles. But Yui, making sure that no one saw them, gave the green-haired boy a deep kiss while lightly biting his lip. When Yui separated, she could see the green-haired boy's face all red, which made her laugh a little. Yui, I never get tired of hearing it from you, she said with a slight smile. Izuku, and I can't get enough of your kisses, you taste like raspberry, he said, blushing a little at Yui. Yui, why you fool, she said as she started eating her noodles. Izuku, hey, he said with a triumphant smile seeing Yui blushing. That day was a Saturday, so they had nothing to do. Yui just went to her room inviting the green-haired boy to come over. Izuku, wow, for being so quiet you are very creative, he said seeing Yui's decorated room. Yui, why you like it? She said with a blush. Izuku, yes, it's the perfect size, he said touching Yui's breast. Yui, no, you idiot, in the room, she said with a vein on her forehead. Izuku, oh yes, she's very cute like you, he said with a smile. At that moment Yui just sketched a small smile and took the collar of the green-haired boy's shirt and pulled him towards her to start kissing him. Then Izuku only reciprocated the kisses. Yui, I love you, Izuku, she said with her serious tone but blushing. Izuku, me too, Yui, he said with a big smile while caressing her hair. At that moment Yui couldn't help but blush, which in the green-haired boy's eyes made her look very beautiful. He just started to caress her cheek while she closed her eyes, enjoying the touch. Yui, so what are we going to do today? She said in her serious tone but a little blushed. Izuku, I don't know, what do you want to do? He said in a happy tone. Yui, I'm being honest with you, she said while the green-haired boy agreed. I just want to stay here with you, she said, hugging the green-haired boy and laying him down on the bed. Just one moment, she said, snuggling into his chest as she slowly fell asleep. Izuku at that moment just limited himself to smelling Yui's hair while caring for it. This is what he felt, what he had not felt before, happiness, but not the usual happiness, a sincere happiness. Without realizing it, he began to cry. The tears fell on Yui, waking her up little by little. She became worried when she saw the green-haired boy crying. Yui, Izuku, are you okay? She said, worried. Why are you crying? She said, hugging him. Izuku, hey, I don't know, I just feel happy. For what has happened. For how life has smiled at me, I feel happy for you, he said with a big smile. Yui, Izuku, I love you, she said while kissing the green-haired boy. I want to be with you like you were there for me when we met. I thought you just wanted to bother me. But when I saw that you insisted on being my friend, I started to open up more to you, and when I found out that you liked me for some reason, my heart jumped with happiness, and it was because without knowing it I loved you too. I want Izuku Midoriya, my boyfriend, she said while sticking to the green-haired boy's chest. Izuku, always I'll be there for you no matter what, he said, lifting her head and kissing her. Yui, please take care of me, she said, blushing, hugging the green-haired boy while hiding in his chest. Izuku, with my life, he said, slowly closing his eyes to fall asleep just like Yui. After about 2 hours we can see how Yui woke up. Yui, what a beautiful dream, she said, blushing a little, but she fell silent when she felt some arms around her. She looked up and blushed when she saw the green-haired boy sleeping while he hugged her. Yui, it wasn't a dream? Great, she said with a slight smile. Then, due to the movement, the green-haired boy woke up, and when he saw her, he just started to caress her hair. Izuku, how did you sleep, Yui? He said with a big smile. Yui, well, she said while lying down on top of the green-haired boy. I'm bored, she said while looking at the green-haired boy. Izuku, at night the illuminated city is very beautiful. Do you want to go see it? He said, smiling. Yui, Of course, she said with a slight smile, but how will we see her? She said, confused. Izuku, wait until it's night, and you'll see, he said, smiling while Yui nodded. Yui, let's eat? I'm hungry, she said while carrying her stomach. Izuku, do you want to eat chicken? We could add tomato paste, he said while Yui, with stars in her eyes, began to drool. I'll take that as a yes, come on, he said, earning a nod from Yui. Then the two went down to the kitchen, but before entering the common room, the green-haired boy took Yui by the arm and pulled her towards him to give her a kiss that she reciprocated. Yui, why that? She said, blushing. Izuku, I don't know, I just want you to know that I love you, he said with a big smile. Yui, fool, I love you too, she said, blushing, returning the kiss. After that, Izuku and Yui went out into a hallway where everyone greeted them. Izuku just went to cook for himself, and Yui, after a while, he came out with 2 plates of chicken and a large jar of tomato sauce. Yui, smelling the green-haired man's food, seemed as if she were floating towards the food. He alone sat in front of the green-haired man, and they began to eat. They were joined by Ibara, who with a constant blush looked at the green-haired man. Yui only saw this with jealousy, wanting to get out of her. She wanted to get Ibara away from Izuku, but she still didn't want to say that they were a couple. She wanted to save herself the uncomfortable questions, so she only looked seriously at Ibara. After that, the two finished eating. Izuku and Yui was about to leave, but Monoma, I'm bored, he said while looking at the ceiling. Kinoko, and what do you want us to do? She said, shrugging her shoulders. Monoma, I don't know. Izuku, what if you touch something for us? He said, smiling. Izuku, no friend, I'm sorry, I'm not on that side, he said, scratching the back of his neck. Tetsu, no, you idiot, you sing a song, he said, laughing. Izuku, oh okay, he said this just to see how Monoma passed him a guitar. Izuku at that moment just winked at Yui. She blushed a little and moved a lock of hair, understanding that the song would be for her. The class began to gather around the green-haired boy as he began to sing. When the song ended, everyone started to applaud the green-haired boy. Yui was blushing, which was more than noticeable, just like all the girls. But on a smaller scale, he just left the guitar in its place and walked away. He winked at Yui, and when she understood, he also went up. Yui, Izuku, I loved it, she said while hugging him. Izuku, well, I hope so, because for you it was, he said, giving her a kiss that made her blush. Yui, so she said, waiting for Izuku's answer. Izuku, do you want to go now? He said with a smile. Yui, well, it's already night, but how are we going to get there? She said, confused. Then Yui watched in shock as wings of darkness came out of the green-haired boy. She approached him in amazement, but didn't expect the green-haired boy to carry her in a bridal style and fly away through the window. Yui, Izuku, she said, scared. Izuku, don't be scared, Yui, I got you, he said, smiling. Yui, fool, don't scare me like that, she said while breathing while clutching her chest. Izuku, sorry, but look down, he said. Yui, no, she said, hiding her gaze in the green-haired boy's chest. Izuku, come on, Yui, believe me, you'll like it, he said, smiling. Then Yui, trusting the green-haired boy, took her gaze off her chest. The moment she looked down, Yui's eyes lit up with the beautiful lights of Japan at night. She just moved a little to see better, but the green-haired boy, seeing this, grabbed her by the waist with his hands so she could see the city better. Yui had her mouth open in surprise and a blush of excitement as she saw all the lights and felt the wind on her face. Like a little girl, she just started to laugh as she spread her arms. Yui, Izuku, this is beautiful, she said happily. Izuku, I'm glad you liked it, he said, smiling. Yui, Izuku, I love you, she said with a tender smile. Izuku, Yui, I love you too, he said, smiling. An overprotective mother? The green-haired boy was waking up in his bed. He was about to get up but felt an extra weight on his chest. When he looked up, he smiled when he saw Yui. She was also waking up, and when she saw the green-haired boy, she just gave him a kiss. Yui, good morning, Izuku, she said, rolling to one side of the green-haired boy so that he could hug her. Izuku, good morning, Yui, how did you sleep? He said with a big smile. Yui, after yesterday's walk I slept spectacularly, she said with a slight smile. Izuku, well, we have to change today, we have classes, he said while caressing Yui's hair. Yui, yes, Izuku, she said, blushing. Izuku, yes, Yui, what's wrong? He said calmly. Yui, when will we tell everyone that we are a couple? She said, blushing. Izuku, Oh, I thought you didn't want to tell anyone, he said, smiling. Yui, well, yes, I want to, she said, blushing. Then the green-haired boy, without expecting anything, opened the window and took a breath of air. Izuku, I love Yui Kodai and she is my girlfriend, the cutest girl in this academy, he shouted from the window. Yui at that moment entered the green-haired man and closed the sale. Yui, and no, I idiot L like that, she screamed, blushing. I wish it was something calm, she said with a big blush. Izuku, but now everyone knows, they know that you are my girlfriend and that I love you very much, he said while kissing Yui. Yui, I idiot, you always know how to make me smile, she said with a slight smile but blushed while she hid in the green-haired boy's chest. But they couldn't continue as they saw the whole room open the door. Oh, what? They said in shock. Kendo, Izuku, what is it that you are AC couple? She said, somewhat jealous. Izuku, yes, as you heard, he said, taking Yui's hand. Yui just closed her eyes because of the embarrassment caused by the green-haired boy's displays of affection in front of everyone. But there was a certain green-haired girl and a certain orange-haired girl who saw this with jealousy. Ibara/Kendo. I have to talk to her, they thought, these determined. Then the whole room began to congratulate the couple. The green-haired boy just smiled and Yui was blushing looking at the floor, but she intertwined her fingers with the green-haired boys. After that they went down to have breakfast. Izuku prepared breakfast for everyone. Everyone ate quietly, although two girls were very quiet, but no one noticed when they got to the room. They sat down. Vlad came in and gave the green-haired boy to smack. Izuku, why was that? He said, crying comical tears. Vlad, because of the scandal this morning, he said seriously, but I'm glad you found someone. You more than anyone deserve happiness, boy, he said, smiling. Izuku, yes, thank you, he said, this one also smiling. Yui, although blushing, only smiled a little. Now everyone knew about her relationship with the green-haired boy. What's the worst that could happen? At that moment everyone fell silent as they watched Aizawa enter the room with a serious look. Aizawa, I want those two brats, he said seriously, pointing at Izuku and Yui. Vlad, hey, we are in. Aizawa, I want all those two brats, he said this so that Vlad, a little scared by the instinct that Aizawa was releasing, understood. So Izuku and Yui with a little fear followed Aizawa to an empty teacher's room. Then Aizawa told the two to sit down. Aizawa, so what are your intentions with my son? He said seriously, looking at Yui. Izuku and Yui at that moment relaxed a little. They thought they would get into trouble for something, but this made Yui a little nervous. Yui, wanted, sir, he said while making a military salute. Aizawa, what else? He said with a penetrating look at the black-haired girl. Yui, take care of him, love him, and above all support him, sir, she said without removing her military salute. Aizawa, okay, Izuku, come out for a moment please, he said, making Yui more nervous. The green-haired boy just nodded, looked at Yui and made a sign for her to relax. Yui nodded and tried to relax. He left the teacher's room and Aizawa inspected Yui with his gaze again. Aizawa, look, Izuku has been someone who has suffered a lot. He suffered bullying, abuse, torture, the abandonment of his mother. He never had a friend, until you came. Look. I adopted him only because I thought the boy could be a great hero, but then I became fond of him to the point that now both legally and sentimentally he is my son. That is why I want the best for him. That is why I want to ask you to treat him well. He is someone who, because of what happened, cannot feel fear or pain, but that day, when he saw you hurt by Bakugo, I saw in his eyes for the first time what I had never seen, fear. Fury, he said, impressing Yui. That is why I just want someone to take care of him for the moment when I am not there, and I want to know that someone will be you. Do you promise me? He said seriously. Yui, I promise you, Aizawa, she said with a slight smile. Aizawa, call me father-in-law, he said in a mocking tone, causing Yui to blush. Yui, why yes, father-in-law, she said, blushing a little. Aizawa, Izuku, you can come in, he said seriously. At that moment the green-haired boy came in and sat next to Yui while holding her hand. Aizawa, well guys, congratulations, you can go, he said to earn a nod from the two. The moment the two were about to leave, Aizawa took Izuku by the shoulder. Aizawa, listen to me, brat, use protection, he said, blushing. Izuku. Izuku, yes mom, he said with a mocking tone to leave with Yui. So now we can see how Yui and Izuku walked through the hallways. Izuku, Yui, I want to meet your parents, he said this seriously. Yui, what? She said, blushing. Izuku, you already met mine. I think it would be fair to meet yours, he said, smiling. Yui, okay, I'll talk to them to see when we can go to dinner at their house, she said, blushing, but took the initiative and gave the green-haired boy a kiss. Izuku, and that's because it was, he said, smiling while caressing Yui's hair. Without expecting anything, Yui threw herself at the green-haired boy and hugged him, hiding in his chest. Yui, because I love you, she said, blushing. Izuku, I love you too, Yui, he said, smiling. Yui, wait for me here, I have to go to the bathroom, she said, making puppy eyes. Izuku, why yes, I'll wait for you here, he said, blushing a bit at Yui's tender face. Yui, yes, I won't be long, he said, he's running. Then when Yui left, Izuku feels someone grab him by the shoulder. Todoroki, Midoriya, he said, looking at Izuku. Izuku, Todoroki, he said, this also seeing him. With Yui. She was coming out of the bathroom. She was washing her hands when she saw two girls approaching her. Yui, what's up, girls? She said calmly. Ibara, Yui. Kendo/Ibara. We need to talk to you, these two said in unison. Yui, I hear them, she said seriously, looking at the two girls. Without a doubt, I love you. Kendo and Ibara stared at Yui. I had already told her there was nothing to lose. Yui, so you're telling me that you also want Izuku? She said seriously, looking at the two girls. Kendo, we liked him from the beginning, but we didn't have the courage to say it, he said, lowering his head. Ibara, that's why we want to ask you to share it with us, she said, bowing. We promise to take care of it and love it just like you, please, she said, almost crying. Yui, she sighed, okay, I'll share it with you, but I'll talk to him, she said, while the two girls agreed. Kendo, thank you, he said while hugging Yui. Ibara, thank you very much, she said, taking her hands. Yui, well, I have to go back with him. I'll tell you what he told me. For now, go back to the classroom, she said, while the two girls agreed and ran away. Well, since you are my friends, and if you love him as much as I do, I can't do anything, she said with a slight smile. Well, he must be waiting for me, she said, coming out of the bathroom. Maybe if I cook something for him, he will reward me. Oh no, she said, watching Izuku and Todoroki fighting. Todoroki, Momo's breasts are bigger, this annoying guy said. Izuku, but Yui's butt is rounder and bigger, he said, giving her a punch. Yui, what the buck? She said, blushing. Todoroki, and why are we fighting over this? He said, giving him a punch. Izuku, I don't know, damn it, why don't we stop fighting? He said, giving him another punch. Yui, Izuku, that's enough, she said, stopping the green-haired boy. Izuku, hello, why, Yui, he said nervously. Then Yui grabbed the green-haired boy by the ear and took him away. Izuku, friend, remember me, he said, singing. Todoroki, history will never forget your courage and sacrifice, he said as he ran away. Izuku, why, Yui, where are we going? He said with fear. Then Yui, realizing that no one was watching them, took the green-haired boy into a teacher's room. Yui, why were they fighting? She said, confused. Izuku, it's that I saw it, and he saw that I saw it, and I saw that he saw that I saw it. It became very uncomfortable, and to break the tension he started talking about Momo. Yui, but are you an idiot? How could you say that? She said, blushing. Izuku, he just showed off his girl. I wanted to show off mine, he said, lowering his head. Yui, you are an idiot, he said, taking the collar of the green-haired boy's shirt and giving him a big kiss. You are an idiot that I love, he said, hiding in his chest. Izuku, I love you too, he said while caressing Yui's hair. Yui, and if you want, well, play, she said while turning around. So Izuku just turned to Yui and started poking her belly. Yui, what are you doing? She said, blushing and confused. Izuku, I'm touching you, it's not obvious, he said, lightly squeezing Yui's few lumps. Yui, but didn't you want to touch my butt? She said, blushing. Izuku, yes, but it's not the same if you leave me, he said, smiling to give her a kiss. Now are we going? He said, extending his hand to her. Yui, idiot, she said, taking him by the hand with a blush. So these walked hand in hand through the halls of the UA. Yui, embarrassed, only intertwined her fingers with the green-haired man until they reached the classroom. Then these, at the moment of entering, each one went to their place to wait for the class to end, and so it was after that everyone went to their bedrooms where Yui would talk to the green Haired man. Then as normal the two went up to Yui's room where the green-haired man lay on her stomach while she pressed his head with her thighs. Yui, do you like it? She said, blushing. Izuku, it's very comfortable, he said, settling himself between Yui's thighs. Yui, Izuku, I have to talk about something important with you, she said seriously. Izuku, what's wrong, he said, getting up and looking at Yui's face. Yui, you would still love me even if there were other people in the relationship, he said this seriously. Izuku, you love someone else, he said sadly. Yui, no better said, another person loves you well too, to be exact, she said, confusing the green-haired boy. Izuku, what? He said confused. Yui, Kendo and Ibara both are in love with you. Apparently you are also in love with Ibara, but what about Kendo? She said seriously. Then the green-haired boy just kissed Yui on the mouth. Izuku, that doesn't matter to me, I would never change you for anything in the world, he said, hugging her. Yui, that's not what I'm getting at, she said. Izuku, so? He said confused. Yui, Izuku, I've decided to share you with Ibara and Kendo. Well, if you want, she said with a blush, looking at Izuku. Izuku, he sighed, call them, he said while Yui nodded. Moments later you see Kendo and Ibara coming in nervously and blushing. Kendo, what did you want to see us for, Izuku? She said blushing. Izuku, look, I accept I want to be with you, but do you want to be with me? He said, confusing the two girls. I mean, do you really want this? Will you share me with so many fish in the water, he said seriously, waiting for the answer from the two girls. Ibara, why you this one breathes, you have been someone very good to me, a good companion and friend. I don't know when the moment was, but I fell in love with you, madly, so I can only say I want to be with Izuku Midoriya and I don't mind sharing it, she said determinedly. Kendo, since I saw you, you seemed like a very attractive boy. I thought that because you were from Clase you would be arrogant, but when I saw you, you were someone somewhat mocking but noble. Good person. The day I heard your story I began to admire you. How is it that someone who's suffered so much can be such a good person and not end up with society? But I did not realize when that admiration little by little was turning into love, and now I can safely say that I love Izuku Midoriya and I do not mind sharing it, she said, also determined. But the girls saw how at that moment the green-haired boy wiped away light tears while he looked up and covered himself with his arms so as not to cry. Izuku, well, if that's what you want, I accept being your boyfriend, he said without removing his arm. Ibara, are you crying? She said, worried. Izuku, it's just that I've never felt how great it is when someone compliments you like that, when you see that someone really loves you. Girls, I love you too, he said, wiping away his tears. At that moment the girls unexpectedly hugged the green-haired boy. He was just trying to stop his tears, but he couldn't. But why were they? Nobody knows. Maybe it was sadness? Everything he couldn't let go of in those years. He finally felt loved. His relationship with Aizawa was different. He had to show Aizawa that he was a perfect candidate to be a hero, but then he became fond of him. But now, it was different. Kendo, Ibara and Yui loved him, and he didn't have to do anything. They love him for who he is, so probably the tears are just of happiness. Father is more than he who begets. My departure from the orphanage was a little strange. We can see how in an orphanage the green-haired boy was tied with chains to a railing. He was down to the skin. He hadn't eaten anything because the nuns had left him without food. Izuku, food, I'm hungry, he almost said, crying. No.1, shut up, you damn demon, he said, slapping her. The green-haired boy just stood there with a blank stare, and his face pointing in the direction of the slap. What was he going to do? Defend himself? He had no strength left. He had nothing. He had no one. None too. Today someone will finally come to see you, Brad. I hope you behave well so that you can finally leave this place and never come back, she said, annoyed. Izuku at that moment could not help but smile. Could he finally get out of that place? He didn't know Hope had already played pranks on him many times, but he hoped that this time it wouldn't be like that. After a few hours the green-haired boy found himself handcuffed to the railing of a window. He saw a man enter, a somewhat obese subject with a lascivious look. Man, is this the boy? He asked, looking strangely at Izuku. No.2, yes, he is the brat, she said, smiling. Man, I'll take it, he said, smiling. No.1, take it, there is no need for paperwork, Don't worry about your things since you don't have anything. Have a happy day, sir, she said, watching how the man walked away, pulling Izuku by the arm. Then Mr. Fatty was carrying Izuku by the arm. Izuku, sir, why it hurts me, he said with a grimace of pain. Shoulder. Get ready, brat, this won't be anything like what I'll do to you later, he said with a lascivious look at the green-haired boy. At that moment I could do nothing but get scared, and I came up with a plan to escape. The green-haired boy at that moment only remembered all the tortures of the orphanage, the beatings of his mother. Was there really no one in this world who loved him? Why did everyone want to hurt him? But no more, he would not let himself be hurt anymore, so with the little strength he had left he hit the man in the genitals, which made him fall to his knees. Man, damn brat, he said with pain. Then I started running. Then the green-haired boy, although limping, began to run. He ran and ran, he doesn't even know how long, but he just kept running until his body no longer responded. He kept running until he accidentally ran into someone. At that moment I collided with the Aizawa, child, he said confused. Izuku, food please, he said, almost falling unconscious. Aizawa, this brat, he said worriedly. Then, seeing the state I was in, he invited me to eat, and that was the day I began to admire him. Moments later we can see how Izuku was eating a hamburger and some fries as if he had never eaten before. Although that phrase was not so far from reality, the green-haired man was eating while drinking his drink. He finally felt something fall into his stomach. Aizawa, so why are you doing this, boy? He said seriously. Izuku, well, in the orphanage they tortured me by tying me to a tube and leaving me without food for months. There, a man almost took me to hurt me more, but I was able to escape. Just a little food and I can smile like new again, he said, smiling. Aizawa, so you don't have parents? He said seriously. Izuku, an orphanage, what do you think? He said somewhat mockingly, looking at Aizawa. Aizawa, oh yeah, I'm sorry, said this bored man. So do you have anywhere to go? Said this man, looking at the green-haired man. Izuku, no, but I'll get a place, he said, smiling. Aizawa, damn kid, you sure have it tough, huh? He said, taking a bite of his hamburger. And why did you end up in an orphanage? He said, taking a potato chip. Izuku, my mother abandoned me there because she said I was a villain, and I don't know what else, just because of my quirk, he said, changing to a serious tone, surprising Aizawa a little. Aizawa, and what is your quirk, kid? He said, downplaying it. Izuku, I can make the quirks of my opponents and allies around me disappear with an aura that I release from my, he said, smiling. If you're going to leave, at least say goodbye, he said without removing his smile. Aizawa, do you see that I've finished my burger? He said, confused by the green-haired boy's answer. Izuku, aren't you going to leave saying you're a villain or your quirk is cursed, things like that? He said without taking his eyes off his hamburger. Aizawa, no, your quirk is something similar to mine, he said with a slight smile, looking at the green-haired boy, who was surprised. Mine allows me to erase the quirks of the people I see, but the effect goes away if I blink, he said calmly. Izuku, wow, I think we are not very different, although life smiled more on one than the other, he said, smiling. You know, I always wanted to be a hero, he said, calling Aizawa's attention. Aizawa, oh yeah? And why aren't you? He said, looking at the green-haired boy with a little interest. Izuku, because my quirk is both beneficial and disadvantageous for battle. Even if I take away the quirk from the villains, I would also take it away from the heroes, and it would be a sure game over since many heroes depend on their quirk. While the villains have street training, they would easily beat them, he said, taking another chip. Aizawa, you know, brat, people told me that my quirk was not good enough to be a hero and that I should give up on my dream. All those comments were what gave me the encouragement to follow my dream. I learned the art of controlling bandages, I learned martial arts, I even learned to use my quirk in the best way for combat, and the day I entered UAI. Remembered all those comments, I just thanked heaven for listening to them, since those were my motivations. So boy, give up on your dream with that useless quirk, you can't be a hero, he said, smiling. Izuku, understanding what he said, also smiled. Izuku, no, I won't do it, I will be a great hero, he said, smiling. Aizawa, alright brat, then let's go, he said, confusing the green-haired boy. Izuku, oh where? He said with doubt. Aizawa, train you, he said, smiling. At that moment the breeze of air began to be heard a little stronger and moved the hair of Aizawa and Izuku both waving in the same direction. Then the green-haired boy with a smile just agreed to follow Aizawa. At that moment I felt something I had never felt before. For the first time I felt the affection of a father. And that's how I met Aizawa, he said, smiling at the girls while they were crying. Apparently they like me, he said with a drop of sweat. Friendship is strengthened and rivalry is born. Now we can see the three girls and Izuku in front of the entire class be in their bedrooms. Izuku, that's why we wanted to tell you, he said seriously, looking at them all. Tetsu, old man, I won't tell you that it's normal, because it's not, but if you love them and they love you, we'll accept you and you. Congratulations, let no one tell you that you don't look good, he said, hugging Izuku. Then the entire classroom 1B congratulated the new couple. Izuku just smiled and the girls, although blushing, also smiled. But Monoma, why yes, congratulations, he said with a fake smile. Yui, thank you, she said, blushing from the compliments of all her classmates. Setsuna, are there any vacancies? She asked with a flirtatious smile. Ibara, Yui, Kendo, no, they said, hugging the green-haired boy possessively. This caused everyone to laugh and Setsuna was left with an aura of sadness after the couple was introduced. Room B celebrated by making an American-style barbecue. Izuku cooked everything by having the best culinary talents. The green-haired boy finished preparing everything. He sat next to his girls and they all began to eat together. After eating, everyone would watch a movie. But Monoma, Midoriya, I can talk to you outside alone, he said seriously. The green-haired boy nodded and left under the watchful eyes of everyone. Tetsu, what do you want to tell him? He said, confused. Kinoko, I don't know. Rival stuff? She said, confusing everyone. All rivals? They said, confused. Kinoko, yes, I once heard Monoma say that he considered Midoriya a rival even though they had never faced each other at all. I don't know, he said, downplaying it. With Izuku, we can see how he and Monoma were in a remote place where no one could hear them. Izuku, what's wrong, Monoma? He said, smiling. Monoma, Midoriya, you're a good friend, you know, he said calmly. Izuku, oh yeah, well, thank you very much, he said with a smile. Monoma, did you know that I like Kendo, he said, looking at the ground. At that moment the green-haired boy's look changed to a completely serious one. Izuku, so this is why you brought me here, you want to fight for her, right? He said seriously. Monoma, no, he said, confusing Izuku, because I saw her eyes. I've known her for 3 years and I know her eyes of happiness, the eyes she has when she's with you, so I just want to tell you something. The moment she loses those eyes, I'll kill you, do you understand? He said seriously. Izuku understood, he said with a smile. Then Monoma just ran his thumb across his eye, wiping away a tear. Monoma, I want you to take care of her, to protect her, take her to the moon for me, he said, raising his fist. Izuku, with my life, he said, hitting him. Monoma, but you know, answering the above, if I want to fight you, you have great power, something that not many can reach. That's why I consider you my goal. I consider you a rival, so what do you think? A fight, here, now, he said, smiling. Izuku, okay, let's fight, he said, smiling. So Monoma and Izuku got into a combat stance. Monoma was a little nervous because he didn't have any copied quirks, but Izuku, copy my gift, he said, smiling. Then Monoma, smiling, touched the green-haired boy and he began to feel a flow of energy running through his body. Izuku, release the power in your entire body, a small percentage, he said this. Monoma, release small percentage, he said, concentrating. Then Monoma, nodding, sees how around him some yellow rays begin to emanate. Monoma, what is this? I feel stronger, he said, smiling. Izuku, it's my gift enhancement. If he can use it, it's because he's also worthy. He would have been a good bearer, but the torch was passed down to me. He trusted me, he thought, smiling. Monoma, shall we begin? He said, smiling. The green-haired boy nodded and stood on guard again, as Monoma did. Izuku 3. Monoma 2. Izuku 1. Izuku/Monoma. Now they shouted as they launched themselves at each other. Then Izuku and Monoma launched themselves at each other. Izuku tried to land a punch on Monoma, who dodged it. Monoma also tried to land one on him, but the green-haired boy took his fist and just smiled, making Monoma put on a nervous smile. Then he forcefully threw him away, causing him to land in front of dormitories 1A. All the students in a fighting stance came out to see what was happening, but were confused to see Monoma in a large crater in the ground, but they were surprised to see how he had yellow lightning, the green-haired boy's gift. Bakugo, typical of the stupid class, always some shitty copycats, right? He said in a mocking tone, but Monoma didn't pay attention to him. Monoma, that was a big hit, he said excitedly. Izuku, and there are more. Where they come from, he said, trying to hit him again. But Monoma was able to dodge it, and punched him in the face, sending him flying to dormitories 1B. This left everyone in shock. Momo, maybe? Denki, achievement. Todoroki / Bakugo, hit him, they said in shock. Bakugo, how is it possible that shit managed to hit the damn nerd? Not even I have done it, said this annoying guy. But neither of them paid attention to him since they had already left. Then Monoma went quickly to where Izuku was. Monoma, this exhausts me a lot, he thought with a somewhat nervous smile. Just like Class A, Class B also went on guard when they saw something crash against the ground, but they got confused and the girls got worried when they saw the green-haired boy. Ibara, Yui, Kendo, Izuku, they said worriedly. They were going to run towards the green-haired boy, but they saw someone coming. Oh, Monoma? They said in surprise. Monoma, that's not all, right? He said, smiling. Then everyone watched in shock as the green-haired boy stood up again. Izuku, obviously not, he said, activating the OFA again. Then, under the astonished gaze of the entire room, they began to fight again. Ibara, why are they fighting? She said worriedly. Tetsu. But look, he said, pointing at the two, they are smiling, they are enjoying it, he said, also smiling. Izuku gave Monoma a blow to the jaw that sent him flying, and then another hammer blow to the back that was planned to take him to the ground, but Monoma in an effort was able to grab the green-haired man's head and hit him, sending him to the ground with the all guys, they said, scared. Ibara, Kendo, Yui, Izuku, they said, these scared ones. But then everyone saw how Izuku and Monoma got up. Monoma was about to fall to his knees but quickly got up. Then they launched themselves at each other, but about to give the finishing blow. Monoma's quirk turned off due to the effort, resulting in one for all turning off. Then the green-haired man punched Monoma, that left him on the ground, but he consented. Then Monoma, supporting himself with the palm of his hands, got up a little only to see the green-haired man in front of him. Izuku, you know, Monoma, at first I saw you as someone a little arrogant, then I saw your quirk and I found it very incredible that you got here against all odds. Then when I changed classes you became my friend. I never thought of seeing you as a rival, but Nito Monoma, from now on we compete to see who will be the best hero, he said, extending his hand to Monoma. Then Monoma took the green-haired man's hand. Everyone watched with a smile the epic battle that these had. They saw how a friendship grew stronger while a rivalry formed. Izuku / Monoma, Echo, they said with a smile as they shook hands. Something is coming. Izuku and Monoma slowly stood up as the others went to see them. Tetsu, guys, why was that? He said, scared. Monoma, oh no, nothing, just a little friendly battle, right? He said, smiling. I entrust you with the most important thing in my life. Kendo, is that true, Izuku? He said seriously. Izuku, yes, it was just a small battle, he said, smiling. And I will take care of her with mine. Then Izuku and Monoma looked at each other for a moment as they both agreed. Kinoko, well, let's go to sleep, I'm already sleepy, she said tiredly. Izuku, okay, he said with a smile, can you help me get there? He said nervously, seeing the three girls. Ibara, let's go, she said with a calm smile before proceeding to carry the green-haired boy with her vines. Yui, I'm sleepy, she said, almost falling asleep. Izuku, let's go to the room to sleep, he said, smiling. Kendo, Ibara, Yui, yes, they said sleepily. So when they got to the room, they closed the door, and the girls instantly fell asleep in bed on top of the green-haired boy. Izuku, I could get used to this, he said, sinking into Ibara's breasts. The next day, Ibara, Yui, and Kendo were waking up but felt something beneath them. Kendo, what is this? She said, confused. But when the three girls got up, they saw the green-haired boy all crushed. Yui, Izuku, are you okay? She said worriedly. Then the green-haired boy just raised his thumb in affirmation, but in the end he ended up unconscious. Ibara, Yui, Kendo, Izuku, they said worriedly. Moments later we can see the green-haired boy slowly waking up with the girls around him. Izuku, what happened to me? He said confused. Kendo, W by accident we slept on top of you, he said while playing with his fingers. Ibara, we're sorry, she said the same. Izuku, no problem, he said smiling. What's more, I liked it, he said blushing at the girls. Yui, pervert, she said hitting him on the head. Izuku, but only with my girls, he said hugging them. I love you, I whispered to them. The girls, upon hearing the green-haired boy, couldn't help but blush and their faces filled with a deep red tint, and these blushing girls just gave the green-haired boy a kiss, which he reciprocated. Izuku, I would like to stay like this all day, he said with a calm smile, closing his eyes. Yui, Izuku? She said confused as she felt the green-haired boy's embrace diminished. Kendo, he fell asleep, she said, turning him over to caress his hair. Ibara, it's so cute, she said while caressing her cheeks. Yui, so what do we do? If we move we can wake him up, she said, watching with a smile how cute the green-haired boy looked. Kendo, and if we sleep too, he said, closing his eyes. Ibara, Kendo is right, I'm still sleepy, she said, also closing her eyes. Yui, okay, she said, putting her head on the green-haired boy's chest. Good night, she said, to sleep with a smile on her beloved's chest. Where am I? Demon, oh, I see you've arrived already? He said seriously. You again? Said this annoying guy. Demon, come on, Izuku, not even a hug, he said smiling. You don't deserve anything from me now, tell me what you want, he said with annoyance. Demon, well, if you don't want to talk I just have to warn you about something, he said, returning to his serious look. And that would be? Demon, something is coming, Izuku, something that neither you nor I can defeat so easily. He is also the possessor of a demon, he said seriously, impressing Izuku. Is there more? He said in shock. Demon, there are 3, you the one approaching, and... Izuku was just in shock upon hearing this name. And why him? Why did you never tell me? This annoying guy said. Demon, you never let me talk to you, boy, but you must be alert at any moment. He can wake up. Remember, I have the power to nullify quirks. The other 2 are completely different. I have no information about them. One is approaching, but the moment releases his demon, you will have to stop him too. I trust you, boy, he said seriously while everything faded away. I will defeat them, he said with a hand on his chest. Demon, I know you will now wake up. You're moving too much. You'll wake up the girls, he said smiling. Thanks for letting me know, lied, he said with a slight smile. Demon, you finally call me by my name, that's new, he said smiling. Goodbye, he said to close his eyes and from one moment to the next be back in the room. Izuku, how is it possible that he is also the possessor of a demon? But more importantly for now, who is the one approaching? He said seriously. Ibara, demon? Said this static. Izuku, Ibara G girls? He said nervously. Where did you moment wake up? He said, trying to change the subject. Yui, Izuku, what do you mean by a demon? Who is he? He said this seriously. Izuku, a demon, a being capable of granting power to a host who may or may not have asked for it. For example, me, I never asked for power, but I am the owner of a demon called Libe. It gives me the power to nullify quirks like it was given to a boy a long time ago, but with magic long before Quirks is the one who possesses another demon, but he has not awakened it yet, but very soon he will, he said, leaving the girls in shock. Kendo, but there is no way to prevent him from waking up? She said with fear. Izuku, no there isn't, and also a battle is approaching. Someone is coming, and not with the best intentions, and it will be my duty to stop him, he said seriously. But then Izuku felt himself surrounded by 3 pairs of arms. Ibara, never forget it, always but always we will support you, she said while caressing the green-haired boy's hair. Kendo, in your battle we will be there for you, supporting you, she said while standing on her chest. Yui, because we love you, she said, surrounding his neck and giving him a kiss on the lips. Izuku, girls, he said, starting to sob a little. I love you, he said, hugging them tightly. Yui, Ibara, Kendo, and we you, Izuku, they said, hugging him tighter. Elsewhere. Are you sure you want to do this? I may be more powerful than you, he said seriously. No, it won't be. I will beat him. I have to be the only bearer of a demon, and I will finally be able to rule this world of shit, he said smiling. Well, if you say so, he said seriously. Yes, as I say, he said with a crazy smile. Elsewhere at the UA. What, where am I? He said confused when he saw a large red space. Demon, welcome young Bakugo, he said smiling. Even if you don't want it, I will save you. Bakugo found himself floating in a dark, strange place with an entity that he didn't even know what it was. Bakugo, who the buck are you? He said with a little fear. Demon, come on young Bakugo, be more polite. I am a demon, and I am here to give you power, he said smiling. Bakugo, power? He said confused. Demon, yes, look, I'll summarize it for you. In this world there are 3 people with a devil at this moment, a boy that I don't even know, you and your rival, the boy that you've always wanted to defeat, Izuku Midoriya, he said smiling macabrely. Then a smile began to form on Bakugo's face. Bakugo, what is this power? He said smiling. Demon, ha ha ha, I knew we would understand each other young Bakugo, your power is unimaginable, a power without rival and without equal your power is. With Izuku. Yui, so what are we going to do, Izuku? She said worriedly. Izuku, I don't know. The moment Bakugo talks to his demon, something very bad is going to happen. Bakugo tried to defeat me the whole time, and I don't doubt that he will use any method to do it. The moment that happens, I know he will try to use one of you as a plan B, so I need you to get away from him as far as you can, understood? He said, looking at the 3 girls. Ibara, Yui, Kendo, understood, these 3 serious ones said. Izuku, well, let's take a bath because we have to go to the academy, he said, blushing at the girls. Ibara, Jay, together? This red one said. Izuku, oh, it's okay if you don't want to, it's just that. Ibara, Yui, Kendo, yes, we want, these redheads said, making the green-haired boy sweat a little. Izuku, well, let's go, he said smiling, making the girls blush more. So when entering the tub, the green-haired boy took off his shirt. The girls blushed massively when they saw the green-haired boy's well-detailed body. He laughed a little, and just struck a pose which made the girls blush even more. Yui, I idiot, she said, blushing while hitting him on the head. Izuku, oh yes, sorry, this Chibi said. Ibara, let's get undressed, don't look, said this redhead. Izuku, I'm blind, he said, turning around. Then the girls began to undress. Little by little the green-haired boy turned to look, and was amazed by the girls' bodies. He was left with his mouth open, which made them blush. Kendo, why you can touch I if you want, she said, blushing. Izuku, it's more fun when they don't let me, he said, smiling. Ibara, pervert, she said, hitting him on the head. Izuku, it's my head's fault, he said, crying comical tears. Yui, let's just get in if, she said, blushing. Izuku, okay, he said, taking off his shorts and boxers. The girls were shocked to see the size of the green-haired boy and blushed as much as they could, but he downplayed it and just got into the shower while he sank completely. Izuku, this is very warm, he said, you should get in, it's very relaxing, he said, closing his eyes. Then blushing, the 3 girls entered the water while little by little they approached the green-haired boy. Yui, Izuku, she said while kissing him. Izuku, what's up, princesses? He said with an innocent smile. Kendo, how much do you love us? She said while also kissing him. Izuku, suspicious, he said this but also received a kiss from Ibara. Ibara, just answer, she said, blushing. Izuku, well, I think there is still no defined number to mark how much I love you, he said, hugging the 3 girls. I adore you, I love you, there is not a day in which I do not want to be with you, he said, resting his head on Ibara's shoulder, who was in the center. Why do you ask? He said, smiling. Yui, we just wanted to know, she said, this red because of everything the green-haired boy just said. Kendo, why you really love us that much? This redhead said. Izuku, I'd be lying if I said no, he said, smiling. Ibara, we love you, she said while kissing him. Izuku, I love them too, he said while playing with Ibara's breasts. Ibara, Izuku, pervert, she said while slapping him. Izuku, sorry, he said with his cheek red. Ibara, warned me at first, this super red one said. Izuku, okay, he said, laughing. Then the girls, seeing the green-haired boy laughing, couldn't help it either, and the laughter came out. Izuku, I would like to be like this forever with peace and without any shame, me and my favorite girls in this world, he said, caressing the hair of the three. Well, it's time to go, we should get changed, he said, smiling so that the girls would nod. Then they came out of the shower and took some clothes to get dressed. The green-haired boy for a moment saw Yui's naked, but so like a snake he came towards her. Yui gave a shriek as she felt her buttocks being lifted and dropped several times. Izuku, yes, your heart is actually beating, he said nervously when he saw Yui's face. Yui, what did I tell you about doing it without permission, she said, preparing her fist. Izuku, that's more fun and that's why you won't hit me, he said with fear. Yui, wrong answer, she said, this to hit him and crash him into the wall. Warn me next time, she said, blushing. Izuku, okay, that's okay, he said with an aura of sadness in a corner, making the girls shed a drop of sweat. So after a while they were finishing changing. The green-haired boy saw how Ibara sat on her bed to put on her stockings. Ibara gave a squeal when she felt the green-haired boy between her legs. Ibara, Izuku W, what are you doing? This redhead said. Izuku, I'm just curious. Well, squeeze your legs, he said, blushing at Ibara. Ibara, although very red, began to rub the green-haired boy's head with her thighs. The green-haired boy just remained silent, and with his eyes rolled back as he felt such a perfect sensation. Ibara, why you like it? This redhead said. Izuku, I love it, he said, making Ibara blush even more. Ibara, W, we're going to TDA Academy, and W, when WEG get back I'll do everything you want, okay? She said, blushing, watching the green-haired boy nod. So the four of them finished changing. When they finished changing, they went downstairs where they all had breakfast together until it was time to go to the academy. The green-haired boy occasionally saw Bakugo, but he saw him very calm. The green-haired boy hoped that he hadn't talked to his demon yet. The bad thing is that he didn't have a plan since he didn't know his powers, but he tried to downplay it so he could at least enjoy his day. So the school day passed quietly normal, the green-haired boy touching his girls, hitting her, the normal thing every day until the day ended. Everyone went to their bedrooms. It was a very busy day. Right now we can see the green-haired boy playing with his Play 4 while being squeezed by Ibara's thighs. Ibara, are you comfortable? This red one said. But the green-haired boy, without answering anything, turned off the play. He took the three girls and hugged them tightly. Yui, Izuku, what's wrong? She said while caressing his hair. Izuku, I don't know, I just want to hug them, he said with a calm smile. Then the three girls, smiling, just started to give the green-haired boy hugs and caresses, to which he laughed. The girls blushed because of the green-haired boy's tender laughter, but they continued to pamper him. Izuku, one day when we leave this academy, when we are professional heroes, I will propose to you. We will have 3 daughters. One will be called Shiozaki, the other Yui, and the other Itsuka, so that when I say their name they both come and I can hug them, he said, making the girls blush to unimaginable levels. Ibara, it doesn't sound so be bad, this redhead said. Izuku, sounds perfect, he said, closing his eyes, increasing the hug on the girls. Then the girls, smiling, began to caress their hair again. Kendo, tell us what's wrong. We love that you are like this, but it's obvious that something is tormenting you. You can tell us, we are your girlfriends, we will support you in everything, she said, while Yui and Ibara agreed. Izuku, I don't know, I feel like my heart is beating faster, and something is shaking inside me, asking me to get away from all this as fast as possible, but I don't want to. Who will defend me when Bakugo releases his demon? I feel the need to escape, but I'm not going to do it, he said, impressing the girls. Yui, you're scared, she said, surprised. Izuku, what? But if that's impossible, I can't feel fear, he said, surprised. Ibara, you're afraid of him, she said, hiding it in her chest. Izuku, I don't know, losing them, dying and not being able to be with you anymore, not being able to save Bakugo from that darkness, he said, sinking deeper into Ibara's chest. Kendo, you want to save him, right? She said, smiling while caressing the green-haired boy. Izuku, yes, I don't want him to fall into the darkness that I came out of, because it's almost impossible to escape from it. It was that day at camp when I met Yui that darkness slowly faded away, and it was the moment that you 3 entered my life as my girlfriends that the darkness was gone completely. Thank you, he said, hugging them tighter. Yui, you have nothing to be thankful for, she said, raising her head and giving him a kiss. Ibara, We love you, and even though we didn't expect this at first, we are happy because you love all three of us equally, and that's what matters, she said while also kissing the green-haired boy. Kendo, we love you, she said while also kissing him. Ibara, so shall we sleep? She said, caressing his hair. Izuku, I want to stay like this just for a moment longer, he said, this so that the girls nodded with a smile and began to give him affection again. I don't know if I can handle him. Bakugo, columns of earth, he said as 2 columns of earth came out of the ground. Disintegrate, he said as he watched a tree turn to dust. But one thing is certain. Bakugo, increased muscle mass, he said to see how his muscles grew a little, then he just smiled. His new power was incredible. With this he could finally defeat the useless one, as he calls him. I will defeat him / I will defeat him. Even if it's the last thing I do, I will save you from the darkness that slowly consumes you even if you don't want it. Between 2 demons. The green-haired boy found himself waking up in a place that he knew very well. Do you have any news? Demon, yes, and they are not good, he said seriously. What are they? He said seriously. Demon. Bakugo's demon is called Zagard and his power is called Words, he said seriously. And what does it consist of? This serious man said. Demon, whatever he wants will come true, but he must have a clear idea about it, but still. That makes him extremely powerful, he said while the demon agreed. Demon, yes, so you must prepare to battle at any time. Young Izuku, it was a pleasure to meet you, he said while bowing. Is the situation that bad? He said sarcastically, but light just disappeared while Izuku slowly woke up. The green-haired boy was waking up. He felt a weight on his chest. Well, 3, he just smiled when he saw 3 heads of hair, 1 black, 1 orange, and 1 green-haired. He just started to caress them while the girls slowly woke up. They also smiled when they saw the green-haired boy. It was a day without classes, so they were able to sleep again and wake up without worries. The girls, when they woke up, each gave the green-haired boy a kiss and snuggled up to him. Yui, we went back to sleep, but are you calmer now? She said while looking at the green-haired boy. Izuku, girls, I have to be honest with you, he said seriously, sitting on the bed so that the worried girls would do the same. Ibara, what's wrong? She said, worried. Izuku, I don't think I'll survive against Bakugo, he said, leaving the girls in shock. Kendo, what? She said in shock, just like the other 2. Ibara, but why do you say that? She said, worried. Izuku, the power that has been granted to him is something beyond my limits. I will face him, but I will have to sacrifice myself to die with him. I said that I would free him from that darkness, but I can't do it. I'm not too strong, he said seriously. Yui, B but T then W, we can go, she said with a nervous smile. Izuku, what? He said confused. Ibara, yes W, we can leave this academy, get away from all this and have a quiet life, she said with a nervous smile. Izuku, no, we can't do it, he said seriously. Ibara, but why not? She said, she is crying. Izuku, the demon came to Bakugo specifically to kill mine, and to kill him he must kill me, he said seriously. Kendo, but you can avoid all that, we just have to go, she said crying. Izuku, Bakugo won't stop until he finds me, and I don't doubt that he will hurt the innocent. I'm sorry girls, but I have to do this, he said, causing the girls to start crying helplessly. The girls were upset with Izuku's response. They didn't want to lose him. He was going to keep talking, but the green-haired boy couldn't continue when he felt a hand reach his cheek and hit it. This was Kendo. Kendo, Izuku, make up your mind them, or as she said seriously while the 2 girls agreed. Then the green-haired boy took Kendo's face and gave her a kiss that was loaded with all the feelings he had for them. Then he did the same with Yui, and then with Ibara. The girls felt happy thinking that he would choose to run away, but he caressed the hair of the 3 girls and then got up and went to the door. Yui, where are you going? She said, worried. Izuku, I love you, forgive me, he said to open the door and leave. Ibara, no, he said crying. Then the 3 girls quickly followed the green-haired boy, but he had left at full speed. When the girls got off, they saw how all their classmates were confused. Setsuna, girls, what happened? Why did Izuku say goodbye to us? She said worriedly. So the girls, crying their eyes out, told the demon hall about Izuku and Bakugo. Everyone was in shock. Did the green-haired boy go to a battle to the death? Monoma, we have to stop him, he said as everyone agreed and began to run to the 1A dormitories. They ran as fast as they could to catch up with their companion. Bakugo, I see that you arrived, he said, smiling slyly. Izuku, this ends today, Bakugo, he said seriously. Bakugo, yes, it's the only thing I agree with you on, he said, turning around to be face to face with the green-haired boy while blue flames came out of his hands. The whole room stood still. What's going on? Why did Bakugo have blue flames? Why are they about to fight? Momo, what's going on? She said while looking at the two boys. Izuku, get out of here if you don't want to die, he said seriously. But no one could continue when they saw how a great taste of wind sent the green-haired boy flying through the air. Bakugo, you talk too much, so I'll kill you, he said with a sly smile, flying towards the green-haired boy. Izuku, has it started yet? It's already started, he said seriously. Izuku for a moment saw the sky, he saw Bakugo approaching him, and then he saw the ground, he saw his entire class watching him, worried, the girls crying. Bakugo, come on nerd, where's your damn demon? He said, giving the green-haired boy a punch that sent him to the ground. Then Bakugo sent some giant rocks that crushed the green-haired boy, leaving everyone in shock. Ibara Yui Kendo, no, they shouted as they watched the green-haired boy being crushed. Bakugo, what's wrong nerd, that's all. He said, laughing, after killing you I'll take your girls and I'll grape them and then I'll kill them, he said, terrifying everyone. Everyone watched in fear as the rock did not move, as the green-haired boy did not come out to defeat it. Bakugo, it can't be you're dead so fast? He said, laughing, I expected it from you, you were always useless, well for nothing, he said, smiling sadistically. Now you go, he said, approaching the girls slowly. Ibara, no, she said with fear. Monoma and Tetsu tried to stop him, but with a simple blow they were knocked unconscious. He just laughed as he got closer to the girls. Bakugo, last words? He said, smiling as he took Kendo's head. Everyone watched in horror and helplessness, unable to do anything. Everyone was afraid, they didn't know what to do. The strongest member of their class was defeated with two simple movements. They couldn't do anything. Kendo just cried. She felt so useless. She couldn't defend the man she loved, and now she will die. She didn't want to die. She was in a last effort, and with all her strength she screamed. Kendo, Izuku, he screamed loudly and scared as he saw how Bakugo squeezed his head tighter. That scream was the one in charge and the trigger of everything, of hope. Everyone watched with tears in their eyes as the rock with which the green-haired boy was crushed broke in half and he walked out slowly. The black shape passed through his entire body in a constant flow, just like the rays of one for all. But what surprised everyone the most was that he came with a large sword that he pulled out of his chest. When he pulled it out of his chest, it sounded like it was being unsheathed. This only made Bakugo smile. Bakugo, good luck, Deku, now you'll see how your beloved girlfriend dies, he said, laughing. But that laughter ceased when he felt an unimaginable pain in his abdomen. It was the green-haired man who with all his strength managed to land a blow on Bakugo which was enough to make him spit saliva and send him flying. Everyone watched with tears as the green-haired man was alive. He was ready to fight. He alone approached Kendo, who was crying. Kendo, Ibara and Yui hugged him tightly as if their life depended on it, because it depends on him. The green-haired man only gave them a kiss on the forehead each one, and he took a few steps back. Izuku, I retreat. As I said, I will survive to be with you. He said this while the girls cried and agreed. Bakugo, Izuku, he shouted angrily, launching himself against the green-haired boy. Izuku, one black all second phase anti-Quirk. Bakugo, he said in a war cry, launching himself against Bakugo. Everyone watched the fight with fear, the fight that will decide who is the strongest, the fight that will decide whether good wins or evil, the fight between two demons. Out of control. A fist bump was what would start this whole fight. Izuku Kaken. Bakugo Izuku. But why did all this start? Izuku Kaken. Bakugo, don't come near me, you damn villain. Was that why? Bakugo, him. Izuku Kaken, what are you going to do to me? Bakugo, as a future hero it is my power to defeat you, villain. Izuku, I'm not a villain. Bakugo, shut up, he said, giving him an explosion. But I never wished for that power. None, you are a villain, we don't want you here. At some point you will destroy everything and we would have to sacrifice you. Be thankful that we still left you alive. I never wanted it. Aizawa, okay brat, we'll train your power. But first you have to get in shape. So you'll do 100 squats, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups and run 10 kilometers. What are you waiting for? A kiss of good luck. Now. Izuku, why yes. So why did you come to me? Nizu, then Izuku, you will go to Class A. Izuku, thank you Grandpa Nizu. Aizawa, finally you can be a hero, son, he said while caressing his hair. Izuku, yes dad. That day was the meeting. Bakugo Deku. Izuku Bakugo. If the power had not come to me, this would not be happening. Izuku and Bakugo headed towards each other with their fists raised, intending to strike first. Bakugo wouldn't have wanted to surpass me, and he would never have wanted power. Aizawa, son, what's going on? He said, looking at Yui. Yui, Bakugo, I released a demon like Izuku's, but he's evil, she said with fear, making Aizawa nervous. Aizawa, shit, he said, putting on his glasses and blindfold. I didn't want this power, everything went black and white. Demon, no, this power wanted you, now fight, to show your worth, the worth for which we granted you this magnificent power, that bravery which you carry since you were born, that torch in you that has never gone out, shows that all these years of suffering did not accept you, they only made you someone worthy of. The anti-Quirk. The fist clash came, and power overflowed. Everyone watched as a red aura originated due to the clash, and then the two quickly separated. Izuku, we must stop all this, said this annoying. Bakugo, no, I must beat you forever, he said with a sinister smile. Then Bakugo at full speed directed a kick to the green-haired man's face. He couldn't dodge it, but a kick reached Bakugo's face while some bandages sent him flying. Aizawa, it can't be, I leave you alone for 2 days and this happens, he said with a tired smile. Izuku, Dad, you have to get out of here, he's too strong, he said with fear. Aizawa, hey, I give the orders here, and if I don't want to go, I'm not going, we'll fight him together, take it as a belated Father's Day, he said with a mocking smile. Izuku, he said this with a light laugh. As you ordered, boss, he said this one, putting himself on guard. Let's see who hits him more, he said this one, so that Aizawa agreed. Then they both saw how Bakugo headed towards them, not with the best intentions. Aizawa, shall we try it? He said, smiling. Izuku, sure, he said this, understanding. Then the green-haired boy quickly went towards Bakugo, but at the last moment Aizawa's bandages caught him, and he pushed himself to kick Bakugo. Bakugo, reacting in time, was about to hit Aizawa, but Izuku pulled him by his bandages, and at maximum speed he was able to kick Bakugo in the jaw, which sent him crashing into a wall. Izuku/Aizawa, double deceptive attack, they said, smiling. Ibara, they are defeating him, she said happily. Kendo, but they can't let their guard down, he said this seriously. Monoma, I have to help you, he said, getting up little by little. This worried everyone. Pony, Monoma, you can't do it. Look at how you are, I'll defeat you with one blow, she said worriedly. Monoma, I don't care, he said, slowly walking towards the battle. So Monoma was about to run towards the green-haired boy, but Setsuna got in his way. Setsuna, Monoma, I won't allow that. But no one expected Monoma to push her to the ground. Monoma, get out of the way, you idiots, he said, annoyed, giving Setsuna a push to start running. Then Monoma came towards Aizawa and Izuku. Izuku, Monoma, what are you doing here? He said seriously. Monoma, I can't let you have all the fun, right? He said this one, touching Izuku and Aizawa. Quirk fusion, he said this one, while everyone watched with impression how Monoma began to run the same rays as the green-haired one, but now they were red. If you are wondering, he said this one, looking at the two, I just copied the quirks of both and joined them. Now the red rays give off an aura that cuts the effect of the quirks instantly, but it does not affect Professor Aizawa or you as the carriers of the quirks, he said this one, impressing everyone. Aizawa, the moment things get complicated you leave, brat, he said, watching as Bakugo got up annoyed. Monoma, no, I reject that order, he said, smiling. Aizawa, tch, brat, he said, smiling. Bakugo, don't forget that I'm still here, he said, annoyed, before launching himself against the three. Then Bakugo launched himself to attack Izuku, but the latter hit him in the face, which was not enough to send him flying, grabbing Aizawa by the bandages and crashing him into Monoma, and then kicking the green-haired boy in the abdomen, which sent them crashing together, but they quickly recovered. But they saw how Bakugo prepared his attack. Bakugo, Fireball, he said this to take a breath and then spit a large amount of fire from his mouth. Everyone looked somewhat scared at the great avalanche of fire that was approaching. If that continued, it would not only hurt the three but also the entire Class B and Class A that was arriving. Izuku, we can't dodge it, he said worriedly. Aizawa, any plans? He said, trying to maintain his composure. Monoma, okay, let's see if this works, he said, launching himself towards the great avalanche of fire. Everyone watched in shock and fear as Monoma threw himself towards the great ball of fire, but then they watched in surprise as it vanished upon contact with Monoma. Monoma, it works, he couldn't finish this one when he felt a blow from Bakugo that ended up sinking his chest, but luckily it didn't go through it. This blow was enough to send him flying into some trees, leaving him unconscious and with a few broken ribs. Izuku, Monoma, he said worriedly. But the green-haired boy remained silent, witnessing what he could never have imagined seeing in his nightmares. Aizawa, they are, he said in shock. Everyone was horrified to see Aizawa's chest. Class A was crying profusely. His chest had been pierced by Bakugo's hand while he was spitting out blood in droves. Bakugo just took his hand off Aizawa's chest and started laughing. Bakugo, maybe I couldn't kill the other idiot, but this one will die, he said, pressing Aizawa's chest with his foot hard. Then the green-haired boy with all his power gave Bakugo a blow that sent him crashing against a rock. Izuku, Dad, look at me, Dad, you'll be okay, okay? Just hold on, he said, crying. Aizawa, even though I only adopted you so you would have a legal guardian to enter you, over time I became fond of you. Please, protect them and be happy. Do it for me. I love you, son, he said, closing his eyes as he slowly stopped breathing with a smile. The green-haired boy only saw Aizawa, the person who gave him the love of a family, the person who took him off the streets, who gave him a home, who took care of him. He saw how his father died. Everyone cried for Aizawa's death, but they got worried when they saw how the green-haired boy began to growl and hold his head. Everyone watched in fear as the green-haired boy's black form spread further across his body, and the rays turned red like Monoma's, but more intense. His teeth became sharper as a tail grew, and his horns grew bigger. Bakugo just got up from the rock and started laughing. Bakugo, are you really going to get like that for a person who wasn't even your family? He said, laughing uncontrollably. He wasn't even your father, he looked more like your mother. How will my son be in Class B? He said, making fun of the green-haired boy. He was an idiot just like you, he said, preparing an attack. Izuku, mother is not the one who engenders, mother is the one who will break you, son of a hitch, he said, losing control little by little. Ibara, Izuku? She said with fear because of the green-haired boy's new appearance. The green-haired boy didn't answer. His mind didn't want to answer. The black form was taking over him. The demon inside him was coming out almost to its full splendor. Berserker. The beginning of the end. The green-haired boy had no control over his body. He had no control over anything. All his power came out on the edge without reservation. Bakugo, what? Are you going to cry? He said mockingly. But everyone was left with their eyes wide open as they saw how Bakugo's abdomen had a large cut while blood began to flow from it, causing him to take a few steps back. Bakugo, what? He said, surprised. But that was not all. The green-haired boy at an overwhelming speed arrived where Bakugo was, and with one hand he buried his head in the ground. But that was not all. He with force began to jump on Bakugo's head, drawing out more and more blood. Now it was safe. The green-haired boy was not going with intentions of saving him, he was going with intentions of killing him. Everyone looked in horror at the green-haired boy's new transformation. He looked like a beast, without reasoning, without thought, only absolute power. This one at a fast speed grabbed Bakugo by the hair and sent him flying, tearing out a large part of it in the process. Then this one at fast speed arrived where Aizawa. He took him in his arms, and in the blink of an eye he arrived where Ibara, Yui, and Kendo. Ibara, Izuku, he said. He is looking at the green-haired boy. Izuku, no, save him, weak eye, he said, leaving Aizawa on the ground. Love them, he said, looking at the girls, and then in another blink he took the face of Bakugo, who had arrived with the intention of hitting him. Bakugo, disintegration, he said, taking the green-haired boy, but nothing happened. What? He said, scared. Then the green-haired boy grabbed Bakugo by the arm and dislocated it, causing him to scream, and slammed him against the ground. He lifted him up in the air again, and slammed him again, and so it continued repeatedly until Bakugo was clearly very weak. Then everyone watched with some disgust as a black mass came out of Bakugo slightly revealing his mouth, saying something that left everyone in shock. Bakugo, help, he said this one, while everyone saw how water ran down from the corner of his mouth from above. They were the tears that were covered by the black mass that quickly returned to him, leaving him as if he didn't have it. Wait, imbecile, just a little longer, and I'll kill him, and then I'll kill you, he said this one to get into a fighting stance. Izuku, I will get you out of that, he said in a very low tone. I promise to get you out of the darkness. Everyone watched in amazement and happiness as the black mass that covered the green-haired boy in a calm manner grew larger, but for some reason it gave security. I will save you, Bakugo, rest assured, he said as he grew a little bigger. I will save you, he said in a war cry. The black mass flooded his body, resulting in only part of his face being seen. His hair went from dark green to intense black when covered by the anti-quirk. Everyone watched in shock as the green-haired man again. He pulled the same sword from his chest and prepared to fight. Izuku, today I will take you out of that darkness, I swear by my father, he said while sheathing his sword in an ancient fencing pose. The Great Wall. A cut came to Bakugo. It was strong enough to slam him into the ground, but with his little strength he was able to take the green-haired boy's sword to lift him up and throw him at the boys. In a quick movement he stopped, and was face to face with Yui without taking his eyes off her. He turned his body, and then his head to go back to Bakugo, while Yui stared blankly at the green-haired boy's battle, wishing he could win and not die. The author of the New York Times. When Bakugo tried to launch an attack on the green-haired boy, he simply couldn't. No matter how hard he tried, no matter how much he repeated it, the attack didn't come out. He was starting to get nervous, but even more so when he saw the green-haired boy coming towards him. The best way to learn English. Everyone watched in awe as it seemed like the green-haired boy had millions of swords as each one hit Bakugo. This was not a simple fight between good and evil, this was transcendent. It was a fight between high-caliber demons, one that was about to end. Izuku, and Tio finish, he lunged at Bakugo. But everyone saw in shock. Tears began to fall. Everyone saw how the green-haired boy's chest was pierced by Bakugo's hand. Bakugo, he, you couldn't defeat me, die, he said with a sadistic smile. Ibara, Yui, Kendo, Izuku, they said you're crying. Izuku, there is something you forget, he said smiling. Bakugo, oh yeah? And that's it? He said mockingly. Izuku, I can regenerate myself, son of a hitch, he said, taking his sword and giving Bakugo a big blow on the shoulder that made him twist to the side and then fall unconscious. Everyone saw how Bakugo fell unconscious while the black mass around him faded away. Everyone at that moment ran to see the green-haired man and saw how the anti-magic went away, but he remained standing. Yui, Kendo, Ibara, Izuku, they said, throwing themselves to hug the green-haired boy while crying. Izuku, okay, it's over, it's all over. He couldn't continue as everyone fell to their knees when they felt a pressure in the air. The pressure in the air made everyone fall to their knees, even Izuku. It was a lot. Footsteps began to be heard, and in the distance they saw someone with a brown hair and a suit approaching slowly. Light. I think it's like the saying goes, let them fight and then you beat the winner who will be a loser because he's weak, he said with a notebook in his hand. Everyone saw how the young man who had just arrived did not have the best intentions. Everyone watched with some fear as the green-haired man was barely able to get up. While he raised his head to see him better, the green-haired man was already very weak, but he had to keep fighting for them, so with the strength he still had left he pulled his sword out of the ground while the black mass returned to him. One thing was certain, the final fight had just begun. Light, come on Izuku, Midoriya, lose to me, he said with a calm smile. Happiness end. The green-haired boy could barely stand. He saw how the boy only had a superior smile. Light, well Izuku, Midoriya, you'll wonder who I am, he said smiling. Izuku, what the buck do you want? This annoying guy said. Light, hey, have a little respect, you don't want to reach heaven with that mouth, he said mockingly. I am Light just like you and that boy. I am the possessor of the power of a demon, only mine emanates differently. At that moment everyone felt the air pressure getting denser. This time the green-haired boy fell to his knees, unable to hold himself up. Ibara, Izuku, she screamed, worried. Kendo, you can do it, she said crying. Yui, for us, she said, also crying. Then everyone saw how the black mass returned to him while he slowly rose from the ground and slowly approached Light. The brown-haired boy did not worry. According to his calculations, the green-haired boy was about to collapse, and so it was. Izuku fell to the ground a few centimeters from him. Everyone watched in horror how the green-haired boy's black mass returned and did not come out. Light, you are someone strong, Izuku Midoriya, but intelligence wins over strength, and believe me, I have plenty of it to spare, he said, putting a foot on the green-haired man's altar. In the new world that he creates, you will be a statue. Feel blessed, since you will be killed by the new father of humanity, he said, taking a pen and his notebook. But before you go, I will tell you about my power. This notebook that I have in my hands is something very simple to use. I just have to color the name of the person, and you know the rest. Everyone watches in horror as Light begins to write in his notebook, but what no one expected is that the three girls with the green hair would take courage, but it was useless. With the simple pressure, the three fell to the ground on their knees without the possibility of moving. Light, well, I didn't want to do this, but you don't give me any other choice. Now you'll see how your precious boyfriend dies in a slow and painful way, he said with a manic smile. The girls just started crying when they heard that laugh. Seeing the green-haired boy on the ground, they didn't know what to do, and the rest just couldn't get up. Light, see you soon. Izuku Midoriya, he wrote this in his notebook. But he watched in confusion as the name became distorted. Light, what? He said, confused. Izuku, no. Light, Ryuk, what's going on? He said seriously. Ryuk, its power is stronger than the Death Note, he said, impressed. At that moment, everyone saw the green-haired boy and saw how the green rays began to evade his body, but they quickly turned black. These invaded his entire body, leaving only his eyes visible. Izuku, one for all limit breaker, he said as the pressure of the air became even stronger, but for some reason his companions could get up. It was a pressure that emanated hope, kindness, desire, and dreams, but on the other hand, Light along with Ryuk were the ones who could not get up and fell to their knees while the green-haired boy's name was slowly erased from the Death Note. Light, Ryuk, we have to get out of here, he said with fear. Ryuk, I can't do anything. This power, we can only resign ourselves, he said, watching the green-haired man prepare his fist. Izuku, Detroit. Ibara, Kendo, Yui. Let's go, Izuku, these hopeful girls shouted. Light, no, he screamed in fear and feeling for the first time what he had never felt in his life. Despair. Izuku, smash. Class 1B and 1A, let's go, Midoriya. Izuku, no limits, he shouted, punching the air. Everyone watched as the trees were ripped from the ground as the earth rose as the blow quickly reached Light. Light. No, he feels like the blow absorbs him. No, he feels like his bones are slowly being crushed by the pressure. Midoriya, he screamed in a heartbreaking cry of pain as he was slowly being consumed by the pressure, and the blow resulting in him being compressed until nothing of him remained, not even his traces. Everyone watched with tears in their eyes as the green-haired boy stood up in front of everyone and raised his fist in the air in a sign of victory. Izuku, we won, he said this before falling unconscious, but Monoma ran towards him and held him. Monoma, you won, my friend, he said, smiling. Tetsu, quickly call an ambulance. The green-haired boy simply had a smile while he was unconscious, while something else was happening inside him. SW? Lib, we defeated him, we won, he said, smiling calmly. That's good to hear, so what happens now? Lib, nothing. Light died with his demon Bakugo. The demon abandoned his body. He was controlled by the power, and now he will have to pay for his actions, and I will stay here until you decide to die, he said, smiling. It was a tough battle. Lib, yes it was, brother, yes it was, he said with a smile, while he slowly healed the green-haired boy's wounds. Time skip. All the students were gathered to pay respect to Aizawa, a great man, a great teacher, a great master, and a great father. The green-haired boy, who was now healed but full of bandages, only cried while being comforted by the girls. He saw how Aizawa's body was cremated at his request. One day the green-haired boy, he alone, took a hamburger from that restaurant that started it all and threw it into the fire, saying goodbye to his father, saying goodbye to the war, saying goodbye to fear, saying goodbye to pain, saying goodbye to the only family he had left. But as the saying goes, you have to give to receive. He finally received the peace and rest he so desired, but at the expense of his father. He only wondered if the sacrifice was necessary, but he felt a hand on his shoulder. When he turned around, he could see that there was no one, and he just smiled. Izuku, see you soon, Dad, I swear we'll see each other again, he said, smiling. The news and the truth became present throughout Japan. The cameras in the distance recorded everything, the entire fight, all the dialogue. Bakugo was going to be set free since it was known that the demon had controlled him, but he refused, saying that he accepted the power in the first place and that he would pay his sentence but not before apologizing to the green-haired man, and he, knowing what happened, accepted them, and they decided to meet again one day to have a fight for the position of #1 hero. The green-haired man, at the end of the day, when everything was over, he alone went with the girls to the room where they always sleep, and when they arrived they felt how the green-haired man carried the three of them while hugging them tightly. "Ibara, what's wrong, Izuku?" she said, smiling. "Izuku, I will marry you after leaving you, and it's not a question, it's a warning," he said, smiling. The girls, with light tears of happiness, just agreed with a smile, and so it was. The 3 years of the UA passed, and finally the day arrived. The bells were heard, and the wedding was huge, the wedding of the #1 hero with the heroines of position 6, 8, and 10 respectively. The green-haired man, with tears, watched as the girls approached arm in arm with each one's father until they reached the altar. He remembered everything that happened, everything he lived just like the girls, everything they had to go through together, but finally, and with a smile, security and pride, they can say, "Ibara Yui Kendo, we accept," they said, crying lightly. The rice fell on the boys and the applause was not long in coming. The green-haired boy kissed the 3 girls while hugging them and crying. "Izuku, with what? This is happiness," he said, smiling so that the 3 girls gave him a kiss, signaling their love. And
let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown in left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.